was protruding and he was experiencing significant blood loss. They managed to stem the bleeding and transfer him to hospital. The medical team said had life-saving treatment not been administered, the 19-year-old would not have survived. 2,000 people are living in large mental health institutions despite pledges in the 1980s to close congregated settings. The Inspector of Mental Health Services finds some residents are sharing rooms, toilets and dining facilities. The Mental Health Commission is warning the HSE it will take action and deregister public mental health centres if compliance with regulations is not improved. Commission Chief Executive John Farley says there needs to be a move away from institutionalising mental health patients.
For example, 2,000 people with enduring mental health difficulties are still in congregated settings or semi-congregated settings in the community. We've 900 inpatients in 28 long-stay units. And what the inspector is saying is we need to continue to progress the policy. The state policy is to get those people out of these units and into smaller homes in the community.
There's calls for the motorised transport grant to be reinstated. The scheme, which provided funding for people with disabilities who needed to buy a car or adopt an existing one, was scrapped 10 years ago with plans for a review to be carried out. However, that has yet to come to fruition. Councillor Martin McDermott says there is a serious need for the grants to be made available to people in Donegal due to the lack of infrastructure in the county.
We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the transport that towns like Galway or Dublin or Cork or them type of areas, Limerick, would have infrastructure, would have transport that allows these people to get out and about and allows people with disabilities to get out and about. We don't have that because everywhere you go in rural Donegal, here in Donegal, you have to get transport to get there. So it would be vitally important for them people and vitally important for their families as well, because it allows them to go to places.
Surveying works for the National Broadband Plan are continuing in Donegal. Surveying works in the Carndonagh area have now been completed, with over 2,900 premises set to benefit from high-speed connectivity. €128 million is to be invested in Donegal under the National Broadband Plan. In the county, there are approximately 33,000 premises in the intervention area, which includes homes, farms, commercial businesses and schools. Finally, for weather, staying dry across most areas today with spells of sunshine, highest temperatures of 18 to 22 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
You're at the counter in your local shop. Birthday card in one hand, a pack of those teeny tiny candles in the other. Now for a present. Only to look up and see the display of scratch cards. Talk about the best present ever if they win big. Birthday or no birthday, with millions in cash prizes to be won instantly, next time you're in store, ask for any all-cash scratch card. The National Lottery. It could be them. Gift responsibly.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 till Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, very good morning to you. Just approaching 4 minutes past 9 on this Friday, the 9th of June 2023. You're very welcome along to another 9 till Noon Show, and it's a busy one as always, lots to squeeze in. But we're going to kick off the first hour with our Friday panel. I'll introduce them to you in just a moment, but just to invite you to get involved in the conversation as well and to have your say. The WhatsApp and text line is now open. It's 086 60 25,000. Truth be told, it never closes. You can also give us a call on 07491 25,000, 07491 25,000. And we welcome your emails via comments@highlandradio.com. And if you want to interact with us on social media, of course, you can watch the programme on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, across our Facebook pages, that is Highland Hub, Highland News and Sport. We're on Twitter as well. And also watch live on our website. Okay, let's say good morning to Professor Pat O'Connor, Professor of Sociology and Social Policy, Emeritus at University of Limerick. Good to have you with us again. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Craig.
Great to have you on board as always. And Senator Lisa Chambers, leader of the Seanad and spokesperson on European and foreign affairs with Fianna Fáil. Lisa, great to see you again. Good morning to you.
Morning, Greg.
And we have a third guest who will be joining us shortly, so we'll introduce them just as soon as we get them connected. A quick one here. Micheál Martin's insisted he'll be leading Fianna Fáil into the next general election. The Taoiseach was responding to suggestions he may seek to become the state's next EU Commissioner when the position becomes vacant in mid-2024. Speculation around Mr Martin's future has also seen him linked to a potential tilt at the presidency of Ireland, but he reaffirmed his pledge to lead Fianna Fáil into the next general election as he faced media questions on a visit to Belfast on Wednesday. I've been asked about different positions and so on. I'm leading the party into the next general election. Good news, Lisa?
Yeah, good on him. He's fairly put that to bed. Look, there's a lot of speculation about the commissioner role for next year, and as you said, it tilts the presidency, but the best person to answer that question is the man himself, and he was asked directly, and he has said he's leading us into the next election. So until he says otherwise, that's the position, and I'm very happy with that. I think he's an asset to the party, and I think in his time as Taoiseach during the pandemic, I think a lot of people said he did a good job, even non-Fianna Fáil people, and I think he's been doing a good role as Taoiseach as well. So I'm happy to hear that, and it's up to himself when he wants to move forward.
And do you think that would be the general sense within the party? I mean, you're always going to get clusters of councillors or some, renegade backbenchers that might have a different view. But do you think that's the sort of the consensus within Fianna Fáil?
I do. I think the consensus within Fianna Fáil, the consensus within the party would be that really it's a matter for himself when he wants to step aside and wants to move on to something else. Obviously, there's a lot of chat within the party about those rumours about the commissioner role for next year and the presidency, but the view would be broadly, not everybody, but the vast majority would be that he's done a good job, and people are quite happy with him at the helm as leader.
You'd forgive him, though, for moving on if he wished to, wouldn't you? I mean, he's climbed as high as you can, I suppose, in Irish politics. I presume he always had an aspiration to lead the country. He's done that now. His name will be forever etched in history, and people will have different interpretations of that, of course. There's not much really for him to achieve. He could be flogging a dead horse trying to form the next government. As I say, riding off into the sunset for an EU Commissioner's job. I think if I were his advisor, I might suggest he do so.
Obviously being Commissioner is a huge job, and it will be amazing to do it, I'm sure. But, don't underestimate Micheál Martin's love of public life and his commitment to the job. I've not encountered anybody in my time in politics with the work ethic and the commitment to the role. It's rare you come across somebody that it's their life, it's what they do. So don't underestimate that element of it. But look, as I said, you can't stay anywhere forever. He's going to go at some point, but it's a matter for himself when he goes, and the vast majority of the party are quite happy to have him as leader for as long as he wants to be there. And
finally, before I bring Pat in, I think the timing of this, we aren't that far away from an election. It would be quite disruptive to Fianna Fáil, I suppose, if he were to change his mind now. So I presume we can presume that he has actually made, as much as anyone can in the moment, a firm decision on this. It's not something you'd be playing with, because it would be quite damaging if he decided then between now and the next election to move on, I think. Lisa?
Yeah, sorry, is that to me? Sorry, Greg. Well, the next election is the European elections and the local elections. So I think we can fairly take it that that's set. And, the Dáil elections, if the government runs the full term, it's got another 2 years to go. It's a long, long time in politics, So, but as I said, it's up to the man himself to decide when he's ready to move forward and move on to something else. And I've no doubt he'll have plenty of opportunities in the next chapter of his life whenever that comes along.
All right, Pat O'Connor, good morning to you again. What's your view on all this?
Well, I think he has to say he's going to go on, otherwise he becomes a lame duck. I do think that the results of the election will be critical in him making his decision. I have no inside track on Fianna Fáil or Micheál Martin's thoughts, but obviously I think if Fianna Fáil do very well at the next elections, he may well think, well, if there's a possibility of forming a government, my money would be on him continuing. However, on the other hand, if, as seems likely, Sinn Féin are going to be the dominant party, I think he'll bow out. But as I say, I have no inside track on this.
That's providing, of course, Sinn Féin can maintain their momentum that they appear to have. Pat, as Lisa pointed out, it's potentially 2 years to the next general election. An awful lot can happen in that time.
Oh, absolutely. And I do notice that Mary Lou McDonald has been downplaying elements that might be problematic for a middle-class constituency, i.e. United Ireland, although everybody knows that's really an important objective of Sinn Féin. So I do think Sinn Féin have been playing a very clever game. So I guess, I'm not a betting woman, but if I were, my money would be on Sinn Féin, and hence the implications of that for Micheál Martin's continuance in power. But in the meantime, he has to say until the very last moment that yes, he's staying, because otherwise, power leaks away and he becomes a lame duck.
At what point do you think, Pat, the public will start questioning Sinn Féin, about how can you fix everything that you've committed to fixing? How are you actually going to fund it? What might be the timeline for delivering everything that you've promised that you might be able to deliver? Do you know what I mean? I think there's a presumption at this point that but there is surely going to come a point, not maybe for people that have always voted Sinn Féin, but those that are sort of considering it as an option, whereby people are going to want a little bit more information on this stuff. Now, I respect that someone in Sinn Féin might say that's out there, but you can't promise that. You have to at some point say, well, exactly how are you going to deliver the sun, the moon and the stars?
Well, in a way, I think, there's a kind of a fantasy element. People are acutely aware of housing, of health, education, the problems, particularly in housing and health. So they want to believe, there's a fantasy element, they want to believe that everything will be okay. So I think that probably Sinn Féin will sail under the fantasy until perhaps 6 months before the election, and then tough questions may begin to be asked. But I think in the meantime, people are so tired, frustrated, angry, upset, that in a way, and they can't see a solution to things like housing and health. And so in a way, the only refuge is fantasy. It's going to be okay. Somehow we're going to magically solve the problem. Somebody is going to solve the problem. And I think that is facilitating Sinn Féin's rise. And I think they will cruise under that until, I estimate, 6 months before the general election.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
It'd also be interesting to see what turnout might be in that. Do people believe politics can fix all of the problems that you talk of? Pleased to say Dr. Andrea Redmond, artist and community development worker, has joined us now. Good morning to you, Andrea. Great to have you on board today.
Thank you, Greg. It's great to be here.
We were just having a conversation here, and we're going to move on after we hear from you. Micheál Martin is insisting he's staying on to lead Fianna Fáil into the next general election. As Lisa Chambers pointed out, that could be 2 years away. But for now, that's his decision. Were you surprised to learn that? Happy? I don't know what.
No, to be perfectly honest, I think, would we miss him? I hate to be cheeky and facetious, but I'm sure he's looking longingly down the road to the day when he can be on a golf course, possibly playing doubles with Leo in a galaxy far, far away. Because really, what difference has he made to Donegal? And this government now, I think they can see the writings on the wall. I think we're discussing Sinn Féin and what can they do to change things? Could they make it any worse than it already is? I mean, the situation is just dire. When we have, for example, a woman at the minute who's dying of cervical cancer, fighting in court, have we learned nothing? We have people who are homeless here in Donegal, housing situation. Can things be any worse? There's a sea change coming, and I'm hoping to see fresh faces, including Sinn Féin, a lot more independence from Donegal, and hopefully maybe a brighter future.
And do you believe that a brighter future will be delivered after the next general election?
It couldn't be any worse, can it? I mean, look at the situation that we're in. we're inviting refugees to this country to live in tents. This country is being fined by the UN for its treatment of refugees. Recently, there was just a story there of an elderly man from Offaly, who's been living in his car for the last 4 weeks. I mean, is there no humanity in this government? And it just seems that they have forgotten the people in the West. They've forgotten the people in Donegal, and whatever will happen, whatever sea change, whatever face replaces Micheál or Leo, the impact to Donegal will be minimal. It'll be the mandarins in Dublin who make these decisions. The mica crisis, where else, could that have happened? They've literally left Donegal in the cold. Now, I have to say that the local councillors in Glanties especially, across all parties, have been excellent and very supportive. But I just think Dublin is just a place unto itself, and it just does not hear ordinary human beings.
I get you. Just before the break, and to move on, just for a bit of a counterbalance to that, I mean, the one thing we have to recognise as well is that if you look at the polls and you combine Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens, even at this point, things aren't looking too bad for them. Approval ratings for the leaders are so-so. So, in other words, there's no guarantees that these parties are going to be wiped out after the next general election. But Senator Chambers, we don't invite you on to defend the government, but obviously you're a member of Fianna Fáil. What do you think of that assessment, Dr. Redmond's assessment of the country, that things couldn't get any worse? Maybe it doesn't tell. I can understand how people might feel that, especially here in the Northwest, but perhaps it doesn't tell the full story either.
I respect her views, and she's entitled to her opinions, of course, and I would disagree with that. I live in the west of Ireland as well. I'm living in Mayo, and I think we have very similar challenges to Donegal and and the west and northwest region. But some of the positives about the country at the minute: we have the best performing economy in the European Union. We have the best life expectancy in the European Union. We were ranked 4th in the world in terms of best place to live. So there's lots of really good things about Ireland, and lots of really good things about how our country is working and is being run. I'm not suggesting there aren't challenges. Of course there are, and housing is the obvious one. But as a country, we're when you compare us to other countries, we're doing really, really well in lots of aspects. And if you look at healthcare, for example, we've just recently gotten a commitment from this government to build a brand new regional cancer centre for the West and Northwest that will be looking after Donegal patients and Mayo patients. We've been looking for this for more than a decade, and we've just gotten that commitment 2 weeks ago. So, there's lots of good things happening. I'm not saying there aren't challenges. Of course there are. And I think, when you talk about polling, yes, support for the government is holding. There was polling done as well on the issue of housing. Did people believe that a change of government would fix the housing crisis? And people didn't buy into that. So, I think people understand that the housing situation, it's going to be a long-term issue for us to deal with. And my view is that the plan that's currently in place is turning the Titanic. But we've had a decade of undersupply that we're trying to catch up on, and that's proving a big challenge, because on top of that, we've had 100,000 Ukrainian and international protection refugees come in the space of 12 months, which is... it's just an astronomical number. Like it's so far beyond what we would have been dealing with previously. We had maybe 3,000 coming in. So that challenge for our country, and every country's feeling this. This is not just Ireland. 100,000 people in 12 months. It's just an extraordinary number of people to try and deal with, on top of a housing challenge that was already there. So overall, I think dealing with the refugees, and I know there's been some people that haven't had accommodation when they've come in, but the vast majority have been accommodated. We can be proud of ourselves for doing, I think, a very good job in just extraordinary difficult circumstances.
Pat, the more people I speak to in areas such as housing, education and health, and it's mostly off the records, the frustration with the permanent government or elements of the civil service, is a party that calls that out and challenges to change that. Perhaps things might resonate more with the public, because I think the public, and we heard Andrea reference that as well, I think the public are sort of starting to see who is making a lot of the decisions, who's holding things up, where the frustrations lie. Like in terms of investment into education, in the Northwest, I think it's €100 per head less per student. You know, we've no professors north of a Dublin-Galway line. Things like that aren't government decisions. The civil service decisions are elements of that. And more you dig into it, you see that that's the case. So I think a party that highlights that and challenges that, Pat, might do very well.
Well, that's possible. I mean, in a way, I suppose the difficulty is once a party is in government and they start basically calling out the civil service, they may find it difficult to get cooperation of the civil service. And most parties are aware of that. I suppose the scandal that has brought this to a lot of people's minds is Robert Watt, the Secretary General in the Department of Health, who appears to be indifferent to his minister and indifferent to any other opinion. In the case of education, I mean, the technological, I don't know what people in Donegal think about the development of the technological universities, whether they see that as a plus or a minus, which was driven by the Higher Education Authority. Which will, and the OECD, there's an OECD report which will actually change the positions within the technological universities so that there will be professors if those recommendations are accepted. But I do think that there should be more accountability of civil servants, that those, particularly at Secretary General level, who make decisions, that those decisions should be accountable for them, and that who is making them should be clear. So I suppose what is interesting is that though that in some departments the ministers seem to be able to utilise the permanent secretariat more effectively than in other departments. So there are issues surrounding those relationships, but the discord and disunity seems most obvious in the Department of Health. And I do think the payment to salary to Robert Watt was absolutely, the whole thing was really, the fact that his payment, how he was selected, the whole scenario was very, very, very strange.
And I think really just with the way the whole defective concrete redress thing is playing out too, I think a lot of people sort of see that in housing as well. But I take your point. That was the voice there of Professor Pat O'Connor. We're also in the company of Senator Lisa Chambers and Dr. Andrea Redmond, and we'll hear more from all of our guests after this quick break.
Streaming exclusively on Disney Plus.
Strippers! Are you still doing it?
What do you think? After 25 years, the Full Monty crew are back.
This is going to be the greatest comeback.
Give me strength. In a new original series.
I call everybody love me.
They're older.
Shock of the century.
And none the wiser.
Love you, mate.
The Full Monty. Streaming June 14th exclusively on Disney Plus. 18 plus subscription required. T's and C's apply.
Be prepared for training and match day with Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure, with a variety of mouthguards, shorts, socks and boots from O'Neill's, ATAC and Adidas. Exclusive Michael Murphy GAA gloves are available in 4 different styles. You'll find everything your team needs to succeed on match day at michaelmurphysports.ie.
Need help designing or understanding plumbing requirements for your new bathroom is not a problem. Our experienced staff are equipped to handle any type of bathroom installation, from a simple tap replacement to a complete bathroom overhaul. Call in and see us and view our checklist to make sure you have everything in order. It could save you money and a huge amount of hassle. McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Towers Buncrana, making things simpler for you.
If you're having a party, BizPrint can create invitations, banners, posters and photo frames for any occasion. Give your guests a fun way to create great memories with props and photo frames. Call BizPrint on 91777955 or visit bizprint.ie.
The groom goes free. The groom goes free. Yes, you heard it. The Groom's Room. Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park. The groom goes free. Call in today. Terms and conditions apply.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
All right, the time is 24 minutes past 9. Now... yesterday, People Before Profit have started their argument that young adults should be paid the full minimum wage. At present, those aged 20 and over must be paid at least $11.30 an hour. Those 19 are entitled to $10.17. 18-year-olds can be paid $9.04. Those under 18 earn $7.91. People Before Profit has drafted an equal pay for young workers bill 2022 that would equalise rates of pay across all age groups. And perhaps it's just because I have sons that are of that age now, and I see them, the hours that they're working, and the fact that they have been earning the lower whilst working the same job beside others that are getting a higher rate. I find it a little unfair. So I do have kind of skin in the game on this one. But let's see what our guests think. Dr. Andrea Redmond, what say you?
I agree totally. It's discriminatory, and I think, when you have the unions unite are behind the motion, you have Social Justice Ireland, the Children's Rights Alliance are behind it. I think in this day and age, young people are out, they're paying car loans, they're saving for university. I think it's very unfair. I myself, and I think a lot of us, work to put ourselves through university, and, the struggle of studies and part-time work, and then to be paid, a lower minimum wage. Also, young people in apprenticeships are paid scantily. Young people who too are on job seekers are paid less than adults. I think it's time that, there was fair and there was equality and pay.
So you can't see any argument for retaining these minimum wage structures as they stand?
Well, some of the arguments they'll throw that it will impact small businesses and that. And a lot of the work that young people do, are jobs that older people really, may not want. And when, what they're saying too is, the young people that they're learning, like an apprentice are learning, but they're actually carrying out a day's work and deserve a day's pay. And when you have people like the unions backing this motion and such strong organisations and voices in Ireland, I can't see why there would be a big issue.
Is there something of a separation here in that, say, for instance, someone was doing a welding apprenticeship, that they might require extra time and oversight, and maybe there's an argument for them receiving a little less for that because they're not up to maybe the skill set of those working there, compared to maybe someone in retail or hospitality, that there's a shorter lead in to to them being upskilled to the same level as of others there. I mean, is there separate arguments for those two areas, do you think, Andrea?
I think it can be looked at. I think certainly that, the case by case, but, they are, from what I hear from people whose children are on apprenticeships, their rate of pay is dire, and it's very difficult for them, and yes, maybe they're learning, but they are also working and contributing to the employer. All
right. So what do you think, Professor Pat O'Connor?
Well, I think, clearly discrimination on the grounds of age or gender or anything else is problematic. It's wrong. End of, right? So basically deciding that people 17, 18, 19 and 20 on the basis of their age should be paid less it's actually illegal. It's wrong, right? I do think the case can be made that if people have less experience or less skills, then on that basis, yes, you can decide to pay them less. So in a way, it's up to the industry to indicate what are the skills which are needed and why, how is it, or whether those who are 17, 18, 19, 20 lack those skills. And if they do, then okay, fair enough, they're paid less. But the idea, we had discrimination on the grounds of, married women couldn't be paid. We've had compulsory mandatory retirement, which is wrong. Again, it's on the basis of age. And we still have an equal pay gap, but it seems Irish society can't get its head around the idea that discrimination means basically not paying people on the basis of their ability to do the job, but on the basis of some other characteristic. And I suppose the surprising thing is that people have only woken up to that now in the KCM.
Yeah, okay. Lisa Chambers, what do you think?
Yeah, I would certainly support the principle of equal pay for equal work, and I think that's what it should come down to. So probably on the same page as you, Greg, around I think apprenticeships it's well recognised that, you're not fully qualified yet, you're not fully skilled in a particular job, you require supervision, oversight, and you're learning a trade. So I've no difficulty with somebody not getting the full wage in those circumstances. It's the same if you go to college to qualify as a nurse or any other profession, you don't get paid the full wage or anything in the first instance. So that I don't have an issue with that personally. But I do have an issue with if somebody's working as a waitress, which is what I did for a decade when I was going through college and school and all the rest of it, or bar work. There's an argument maybe for the first 6 months when you're learning the ropes because you are that bit slower and you still need to be watched and minded a bit. But after that, I don't think there's if you start waitressing as I did when I was 16, I don't see how you could be on a reduced wage for 4 years because you're well able at that stage. So I think that this definitely merits consideration. It will get pushback from the business community, if we're honest about it. We know this. There will be a strong lobby from that perspective. I would have some sympathy for the smaller coffee shops and pubs that have a small limited staff and their margins wouldn't be the same as the bigger guys. So it'll just need to be worked through on that basis. But I do think, look at certainly when I listen to comments around the gender pay gap as well, it's hard to argue. I would always argue that women get paid less because they do, and we know this. It's 14% of a pay gap for women and men in this country. That we shouldn't have an age gap as well. So once it's equal work and you're fully qualified and fully trained, you should be getting the same wages.
Yeah, and I mean I would sympathise with the small businesses that you reference, but they can't necessarily survive off the back of young people and exploiting them, because they will favour employing young people because it's cheaper, and that will obviously then there are older people that don't get employed and they're discriminated against in a way as well. Would you agree, Andrea?
Yeah, that's actually the argument that Unite is making, that employers are employing low-paid young people over the backs of maybe older workers, and so they're being excluded. So that's the argument that Unite is making at the moment.
Yeah, okay. And do you see change in this regard? I mean, there's a couple of other European countries have got rid of it. Pat, I mean, obviously there'll be some resistance, but is there an inevitability about this?
I think the fact that it is named now, there is an inevitability. And really, it is unthinkable to say that if you run a business, you must run it taking into account all your costs. And if you can't run it profitably, then you're out of business. I'm sorry. It is untenable to think you can break the law because you want your business to survive, I mean, anybody, for example, if you suggested that really business owners should be free to deal in stolen goods so that they could be viable businesses, people would say, no, of course not. Yeah. So in a way, the viability of business is the owner's problem. It can't be done again. Businesses can't be basically maintained if they break the law.
And in fairness to Lisa, you didn't suggest that. I think you said you would appreciate the pressure it would put these businesses on, and you didn't say to justify its retention. Just to be clear.
Just to be clear, and obviously the businesses are not breaking the law currently, because that is perfectly legal to pay those reduced rates, because that is what's been set in policy by the state. So that the businesses are not breaking the law currently. And I suppose they've set up their staffing structure and their business on the basis that is the going rate. So you just need to give businesses a bit of time to adjust to changes like that, because it will be a significant change. And I don't think that's insurmountable. And certainly I would agree that, I think businesses will probably look at this and say, yeah, look, I think they can see the change is going to come. And we'll just make those changes.
Yeah, because you have 18-year-olds working 1 or 2 years in a place, and then there's other people, just because they're older, coming in instantly on, a couple €3 higher than them. I mean, it must be very demoralising and not a great way to sort of start your working life, Andrea.
No, it's not, and it's discriminatory. And I having lived in Canada, there's not an equal. Is this done elsewhere? I don't think so. I mean, minimum wage was minimum wage, whether you were 16 or you were 35.
I think there are sliding scales elsewhere, but there are a couple of sort of our neighbours that have got rid of it more recently, Andrew, if I'm correct. I don't have that data just in front of me, but I don't think it's unprecedented. I don't think we're outliers, or at least we weren't in the past. A caller says, on a matter of profound change, the Irish people should have their say. There should be a referendum on mass immigration. Can Ireland say no? What do you think about that, Lisa? I mean, I'm not sure really about the wording of the question, but what we did learn is that 75% of the population, and it's an old survey now, so we won't stay long on it, had concerns about the level of immigration or how immigration was being handled. As I say, I think that how a question is phrased is incredibly important in these matters. But be that as it may, there are a lot of people that have their concerns now. Does this government or another government have to address that, or do they have to sort of say, right, we understand that that's how you feel, but this is what we have to do?
I wouldn't support a referendum on immigration. I think that would be very divisive, and referenda in this country is reserved for constitutional change, where we want to change our constitution. But dealing with the question that was asked, there's a lot of concern around immigration. I would have some of those concerns myself. It's putting pressure on services and on our country, and then we obviously have a moral and legal obligation to take people in, and particularly international protection. If somebody puts a foot on Irish soil, you have an international legal obligation to process them. It's the same for every country, not just Ireland.
Into that though, Lisa, didn't we? We did opt into that. It's not something we're bound by. It's something we chose to partake in.
Well, yeah, but I mean, most first world countries would be in the same. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think we want to step away from that. But we are looking. I mean, you probably saw the story yesterday where the memo to cabinet to actually pay a financial contribution to the EU as opposed to taking in 350 international protection applicants. So we're availing of that voluntary solidarity mechanism that was agreed at the EU last year. So we are trying to stem the flow and reduce the numbers coming in. It is levelling off to a certain extent. I think most of the refugees coming in the last year are from Ukraine, which is understandable, and God love them. I think what they're going through is just horrific. But many of those people will want to go home as soon as they can as well. And there will be a rebuilding effort in Ukraine. So we just hope that the war will come to an end sooner rather than later. But it's going to be an ongoing challenge, Greg. If we need to be honest about it as a country, whether it's war in Ukraine or whether it's Syria, whether it's climate migration is going to be a massive challenge for the European Union, for the world in the coming decades because of those issues. So we are going to have, I think, more of an open and honest conversation as the country as to how we want to deal with this.
Yeah, and maybe ask ourselves actually what we're doing at the moment. How is it affecting us as an individual? Because I think and this is not to take one side or other, but we seem to have an awful lot of conversation about what could happen or what, but what actually is happening. How has people's lives changed as a result of this action that we're taking? Do you know, we it seems, and I mean, even messages coming in like, look what happened in France yesterday. This is in relation to the Syrian refugee, the awful attack on children over in France. But people are sort of saying, well, that's what we'll get. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, I
don't buy into that. I mean, there are bad people everywhere. And it's not surprising that if you have a huge number of people coming in that you might get one, or two. That's just the human beings, and there's always going to be a bad egg everywhere. But that's overall, I think people coming in are decent. They're fleeing war, they're fleeing horrible situations, and we're doing our best as a country to be welcoming and sympathetic and to look after people, because I suppose we were a country of immigrants ourselves not that long ago, and we know the pain of having to leave your homeland to go elsewhere because you don't have any other choice. So we get that as a country. We really get that. But I think overall, when you think about, say, between 2017 and 2019, we took in roughly 3.5 international protection people, right, over 2 years. We took in the same number in less than half a year this year. So that's the scale of the increase. So when you take that into account and what we've been dealing with, overall, I think the impact has been minimised as much as possible. But of course, you're going to see it, you're going to feel it, because the numbers are huge. But we're not alone in that. Every country in Europe is dealing with this, and some more than others. I think those countries bordering Ukraine, Poland, for example, have taken in 10 times more than we have. So we're not alone.
Yeah, but a lot of the same conversations are happening in Poland that are happening here as well.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And we had the Polish ambassador on not that long ago that sort of recognised that. Pat has to say, we'll move on shortly, but just referencing that poll, obviously the majority of people had concerns as to the way the question was asked of them. What does a government have to heed that and say, right, maybe they are in terms of this 1.5 million we're paying to relieve us of our responsibility of almost 400 people. But what's your view?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't be in favour of a referendum. I do think that it has highlighted the infrastructure deficits which existed before all this situation emerged. And I suppose what has interested me is that, I mean, we have had 10,000 homeless from pre-COVID, pre-war, all of those things. And the interesting thing is that the government has galvanized itself to deal with the influx of Ukrainians, particularly, in a way which it has not done for example, 10,000 homeless, including 3,000 children, for quite a substantial number of years. So I think, in a way, that has a lot of people have noted that, and it has raised questions.
Well, can I put it to you just as for the point of argument? I mean, the government would say that there is a bed for everyone that is homeless, right? So it's not ideal accommodation, but neither is that for refugees. And that I think we also have to recognise, Pat, that it's a countrywide problem, but the majority of homelessness is in and around Dublin, and that there are, and I've mentioned this on the show before, but there are other challenges, other services that might be required to assist people back into living in a home. There could be addiction issues or whatever it might be. Do you know? I mean, can we directly compare 10,000 Ukrainians fleeing Ireland, fleeing to Ireland from a war, with 10,000 homeless people that can be on the streets for many, many different reasons and require many different services?
No, of course we can't equate them, but it is interesting that, for example, the grants to do up old houses, which was an obvious thing for anyone walking around towns, right? You could see how so many, Waterford is an exemplar, and yet you need only, in terms of local authority action on this issue, but you need only walk around Waterford to see there are a huge number of buildings which are in need of refurbishment, which could be very satisfactory homes. So yes, obviously the situations are different, but the key point I'm making is that the energy to tackle this problem, which it has been, we have actually put our mind to homelessness. Now, I think there are, in some ways, I cannot understand why we cannot go for timber homes, which are basically there was a programme on it, and basically on one of the islands in Scotland, manufactured in a factory and assembled in 3 days on site. Now, if they can withstand the gales and temperatures in basically the very north of the islands of Scotland, they could certainly be okay here. So in a way, I still feel we have some solutions that we are not considering because it doesn't suit, for example, the building industry. So we've had a more lateral approach, but we still haven't enough.
And I get your point, I get your point, and I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. But when people can't get modular homes because of defective concrete, that's it's frustrating when we can't sort of say let's build a modular home village for the homeless somewhere, but we can deliver thousands upon thousands of units of housing, effectively, or accommodation for thousands. I think by the end of this year, end of next year, down the southwest. I mean, people go, well, why? Well, that doesn't make sense. And I think maybe even if that was communicated better, it might be more tolerable for people, or there could be an understanding of what's going on.
But I think we've adopted, for example, putting people into hotels has been, as we now recognise, was yet again a convenient solution. It hasn't really, in terms of the tourist industry on the West Coast, it has been a known goal. But that in a way, and I still don't think we have fully mobilised the general public, like at the beginning, basically facilitating people who had homes to offer. It was a joke.
Well, that's... I have another bugbear on that, because I know many, many people who offered their homes. They were declined, they were accepted. No one was moved to them, and hotels, half of the hotel accommodation in this county is taken up, and I just simply don't understand that, because it would be much cheaper. And I've seen people with food hanging out of their windows of hotels to keep it cool. They could be in some of these houses living at something of a normal life.
But it was a convenient solution, convenient for the hoteliers, convenient for the government. I mean, why do we keep going for what look like handy solutions which facilitate short-term benefits for whether it's the hoteliers, the building industry, etc., and don't mobilise basically the ordinary public, which in turn would help in terms of people. If people get to know Ukrainians or international asylum seekers or whatever, it greatly reduces hostility, because people think, well, it's X or Y, and it detoxifies the whole thing. In a way, this has been an own goal by the government in terms of the creation of this problem.
I'd love to see the integration plan going forward as well, because I think that's going to be a critical part of the future of this country, that we don't have groups of different individuals living in different areas. I mean, any successful rapid change in a population is achieved with understanding of each other and integration, not having sections of towns that become specific to one or other group of people. Would you agree, Andrea?
Absolutely. I mean, in our experience in Duhry, we had about 35 Ukrainians come a year ago unexpectedly. One of the things to a lot of the resourcing and a lot of support has come from community and voluntary sector, who have been kind of caught on the hoof. And I know we have as a committee, and had to seek fundings to support families in that, and try to run classes and with the support of ETB and that. But there just didn't seem to be forward planning. And I would agree with a lot of what Pat has had to say. Where do we go from here? How do we integrate these families? And it may be quite a decade before the Ukraine will be able to fit enough to take some families back with rebuilding and things like that. But at the minute, the Ukrainians have contributed to our village. They've kept the school open. They are out working in men's shed to build things for the community, and integration and getting the community to meet with these refugees, as has been said. The Irish have been refugees for centuries, and it's time that
Is it easier to have that level of integration with people fleeing Ukraine? Because we also need to make sure that happens too with international protection applicants that are granted residency here as well.
100%, but it's the mechanism to do that, because I mean a lot of non-Ukrainians are put in centres, maybe isolated from the community, where in our case, they were a small village with very little infrastructure. So we were kind of just thrown in together, and we had to find our own way, which we have, and they've been a wonderful asset to our community. And the support, and again, community and voluntary needs more support from government, because we've had to apply for funding, which is competitive, to try and support communities. So, there needs to be more forethought and more thinking about how do we move on from here.
All right, we'll be back with more from our guests after this break. Back in about 3.5 minutes.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Fruit and veg discounts are ripe for the picking at Lidl. Chopped costs with 40% off microwavable baby potatoes, now 59 cent. Don't leave without 44% off Irish butterhead lettuce, now 49 cent. Plus a juicy 20% off our entire frozen fruit range on Lidl Plus. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full Lidl today. T's and C's apply.
Shop LK at Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. New, fresh colours in women's sportswear from Nike and Under Armour. Get that new look with some bright colours. Quarter zips with t-shirts and fitness bottoms. Match it up with some new arrivals in our footwear for women. Brooks, Hoka, and On Running gives you a unique comfort sensation. View our new arrivals. Click on bmcsports.ie for your free delivery.
Did you know that all household electronic and lighting items are free to recycle? When you recycle e-waste, you're not just preventing it going to landfill, you're also giving it new life, recovering valuable resources that can be used again, and stopping harmful substances from entering our environment. Recycle for free with WE at your local authority recycling centre or participating electrical retailer. Visit weIreland.ie for details. A message from We Ireland, the government-approved scheme for electrical and battery recycling.
Don't miss the 31st annual Finn Valley Show on Russell Brothers Farm, Killygordon on Saturday 17th of June with the usual dog, home industries, poultry, sheep, cattle, horse and pony classes and Fast and Furious Donkey Derby plus Show and Shine tractor competition judged by Kirsty Ward from Grassmen with trade stands, live music and children's entertainment. The Finn Valley Show is sure to be a family fun day on June 17th. This ad is sponsored by Kilpatrick Brothers Contracting for all your agri needs: mowing, raking, baling, GPS sowing, slurry and manure spreading. Call Davy or Ray on 087 2121 760.
Join us at the Abbey Hotel for our country music weekend. Dance the night away this Friday with Robert Mazzell and Michael English. On Saturday, enjoy Olivia Douglas, Patrick Feeney and Stuart Moyles. And to finish off a fabulous weekend, join Jimmy Buckley for our Sunday afternoon dancing from 3 to 5 p.m. That's this weekend at the Abbey Hotel, Donegal Town.
Don't miss the Kerrykeel Vintage Rally this Saturday 10th of June. Enjoy a great display of stationary engines, cars and tractors. There's also trade stalls, crafts and demonstrations, live music and children's amusements. That's the Kerrykeel Vintage Rally at the church grounds this Saturday from 12 noon. This ad is sponsored by Wuriski's Eurospar and Ice Cream Parlour, Ramelton.
Who said electrification can't spark excitement? From introducing Ireland's first EV to redefining the family car, Nissan has always led from the front. And now we're breaking new ground once more with e-Power, Nissan's unique hybrid driving system, fueled by petrol, driven by electric, no need to recharge, giving you the pleasure of electric driving without the need to plug in. New Nissan Qashqai and X-Trail with e-Power. Drive it to believe it at your nearest Nissan dealer. Nissan. Innovation that excites.
Your local Nissan dealer is iMotors in Letterkenny and Malin. Visit imotors.ie.
Raymond Sweeney here to let you know about some great value laptops we now have in stock, like the super affordable Ventura Europa, powered by an Intel Celeron processor, ideal for studying, e-learning and keeping up to date with the latest news for just $249. Also the super fast Avita Pura laptop with a Ryzen 5 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage for only $399. Check out these and other great value laptops now at Ben Sweeney Euronics in Letterkenny and Dunlow.
Are the signs of aging creeping up on you? Are you not happy with the way you look or feel? At Letterkenny Medics Private Clinic, we're here to help you, offering Botox anti-wrinkle injections, derma fillers, skin bio injections, Botox treatment for grinding and clenching teeth, hyperhidrosis that aids excessive sweating. Let our doctors help bring back your confidence and look after what is important to you. To see what real results really look like, book your immediate appointment with no waiting time at letterkennymedics.ie. Letterkenny Medics, we listen if you want to talk.
The Inishowen Vintage Weekend kicks off this Friday night in the marquee Carrickfield Moville with Orla Fury, followed by the David Craig Band. Doors open at 8 p.m. with a late bar. This ad is sponsored by Hannon Green. For all your insurance needs, we have you covered.
Saturday's Lotto jackpot is heading for €11.5 million. That's €11.5 million. It's the biggest Lotto jackpot this year. All €11.5 million of it.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why.
The National Lottery. It could be you. Play responsibly. Play for fun.
Margaret says, good old Greg, pulling with the hare and running with the hound. That's good, isn't it? That means I'm balanced, doesn't it? Is that a positive thing? I don't know. Sounds all right. Anna Cola says, new TDs get full pay while they're learning the ropes. Senators too. So what do you think about that, Andrea? Okay.
Well said.
Yeah, all right, okay. We've covered that one. Did you see the study, the EU-wide survey on isolation? And it was there was a lot of people surveyed in it, and it found that we have the highest levels of loneliness in Europe. This, according to the EU-wide survey on isolation. Sad to hear that, Andrea. I mean, obviously, working on a programme like this and much of it covering rural Ireland, it doesn't come as a surprise. And as I said in the show yesterday, I think we, through COVID, we all got a taste of isolation and loneliness, and perhaps we shouldn't forget that as we try and move forward. But we need to do all we can, Andrea, don't we, to try and relieve that. It shouldn't be beyond us.
No, and again, my discussion before with the Ukrainians, you know, a lot of the supports are provided by the community and voluntary sector. And again, our funding, a lot of it is competitive. We have to apply for it. So in the case of Duhry, you know, you do see incidents of rural isolation, the rural way of life changing. I mean, we've lost the post office, which was a huge social outlet for people to meet. The health centre is gone. The Garda station is gone. We were going to lose our shop, only for the sake the Ukrainians came that was the school was going to close. So there's been huge changes and ructions in rural Ireland and cuts to infrastructure, transportation, for example. We have an aging population. We have young people. We had like 6 young people had left the area to go to Australia. So, you know, we're an aging community. What we have tried to do is set up things like Men's Shed, which was very successful. We had a heritage group that met on a regular basis, looked at old photographs to try and engage. Loneliness affects mental health as well, and which can affect physical health. So you have issues of stroke, and the impact is there. It's one of the hardest group to reach is men. Yeah. And we have been trying our darnest to try and engage with the local men. But my call would be more of a recognition to what local people on the ground are doing and supporting them.
Yeah, and Lisa, I think there's a lot of stuff out there. We can always do more. It's about connecting the people with it, you know, and that came through in a lot of the texts yesterday. People were very keen to get involved in stuff, but it's actually signposting them to it and getting them connected to it. And if there's a role for local link to play in getting them to it, maybe that we could look at that. But I mean, I think this is very fixable, Lisa, if we coordinate it correctly.
Yeah, like it has to be, and it's really sad to read that, but also not surprising. I mean, I live in a very rural part of the country as well, and grew up in the countryside, and our way of life has changed a huge amount in a very short space of time. You know, life used to revolve around mass and going to church and the local pub, and those things aren't as, I suppose, people aren't going there as much, and the rural pub is in decline as well. So when you take away those kind of hubs of activity, where do people go to? And I understand it's more affecting men than women. That's not surprising in other ways as well. Women are maybe better at staying in touch with friends and connecting and maybe getting involved in local groups. So I think we need some sort of a task force to look at this, to try and identify, how can we get people out and about, to give direction to local communities. Here are some tried and tested methods that you can use, because community groups will do this for themselves, but it's about kind of identifying how do we go about addressing this. And I don't think we know the answer to that yet.
Exactly. And I see Age Action are coming out with an initiative, but you have to sort of be engaged already with Age Action to sort of benefit from it. Now, they're looking to expand that out.
It's chicken and egg stuff, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And unfortunately, just a minute to you, Pat.
Yeah, well, you need resources to basically be maintaining relationships, whether those are with the community or with friends. And the difficulty is that often those resources are not available. It is significant that one of the most successful initiatives has been Men's Sheds, which is providing a context for actually traditional versions of masculinity. Women have solved this problem. For example, many middle-aged and older women see swimming is free, right? Okay. Walking, but it's impossible in the country to walk safely on all roads, but walking is also free. So in a way, the key element of creating venues, areas, facilities which are free. And by the way, on average, the report which I'm looking at, it says on average women are more likely to be lonely. So you can't just forget that. Young people are also, they highlight, very likely to be lonely. And of course, if you're basically living at home, your mates have gone to Australia, whatever.
Will you follow them? Yeah. Okay.
You have very little money. You have no facilities for young people to go anywhere unless you have a dedicated. You're living on your own. You may end up taking a taxi. That's €30 each way before you start having a night out. I'm sorry, it's resources.
Okay. Pat, thank you so very much indeed. Professor Pat O'Connor, lovely to have you on the programme. Senator Lisa Chambers, have a lovely weekend. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Greg.
And last but certainly not least, Dr. Andrea Redmond, artist and community developer worker. Hopefully you'll rejoin us. You will, Andrea?
I would love to. Thank you very much, Greg.
Fantastic. Have a lovely weekend. Take care. All right, thanks for all your comments coming in. We'll get to some of those after we take a break for the news and obituary notices.
Charge into summer with TUI. Choose from a beach cruise or city break or Mexico flying direct from Dublin. Holiday sorted. TUI, live happy.
Shop LK at Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure Main Street, Letterkenny. New, fresh colours in women's sportswear from Nike and Under Armour. Get that new look with some bright colours. Quarter zips with t-shirts and fitness bottoms. Match it up with some new arrivals in our footwear for women. Brooks, Hoka and On Running gives you a unique comfort sensation. View our new arrivals. Click on bmcsports.ie for your free delivery.
The warehouse clearance sale at McGinley's Furniture in Letterkenny ends this evening at 7. Due to a showroom expansion, all warehouse stock is clearing at massively discounted prices, with up to 70% off. Stock is limited, so don't miss this opportunity to grab a bargain only at McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. Sale ends this evening at 7.
Inishowen Vintage Weekend this Saturday in the marquee Carrickfield, Moville. It's DJ Rudders followed by the Celtic Nights. Doors open at 8 p.m. with a late bar. This ad is sponsored by the Corner Bar Moville. Newly refurbished ensuite accommodation and live music every weekend.
Homeowners, it's time to unlock incredible savings on your energy bills. Efficient Renewables is here to reduce your energy consumption, say goodbye to skyrocketing costs and hello to renewable energy solutions. With no VAT on solar panels and the generous grants for both solar panels and heat pumps, see these innovative systems in action in our state-of-the-art showroom in Newton Cunningham today. Contact Efficient Renewables on 074 97 08320.
Harkins Fireplaces summer sale now on. 50% off selected fireplaces. Call 9141109 or visit their showroom in Ballybogan, Lifford. That's Harkins Fireplaces for a better choice of fireplace.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The difference that Taoiseach has made to Donegal has been questioned. Micheál Martin has said that he will lead Fianna Fáil into the next general election. Dr Andrea Redmond, who is a member of the Duherty Development Group, however, says the state of the country cannot get any worse. She told today's 9 till noon show that no matter what the next government looks like, Donegal will continue to be forgotten.
Is there no humanity in this government? And it just seems that they have forgotten the people in the West. They've forgotten the people in Donegal. Whatever will happen, whatever sea change, whatever face replaces Micheál or Leo, the impact to Donegal will be minimal. It'll be the mandarins in Dublin who make these decisions. The Micah crisis, where else could that have happened? They've literally left Donegal in the cold.
Two Donegal Gardaí have been hailed for saving the life of a teenager in County Louth. Doctors said had life-saving treatment not been administered by the two members of An Garda's Síochána, the teenager would not have survived. Their quick thinking, calm and measured response as a team has been praised. Keisha Conley has more.
On Friday last, Garda Roisin O'Donnell and Garda Rose McGlynn were on patrol along the M1 at Charleville when they were waved down by a panicked couple. It emerged their son had sustained a serious injury to his arm. However, his parents had got a flat tyre en route to hospital. Both Gardaí quickly realised that Tabish's bone was protruding and he was experiencing significant blood loss. They took his mother's jacket and his dad's trouser belt to make a tourniquet to stem the bleeding. His condition, however, was deteriorating quickly and an ambulance was still some distance away. While Garda McGlynn carefully moved him to the Garda vehicle, Garda O'Donnell performed traffic management duties. During the journey to hospital, Tabish was falling in and out of consciousness and his arm was turning pale. Upon arrival to hospital, he was immediately seen by medics. They noted that had life-saving treatment not been administered and a tourniquet applied, the 19-year-old would not have survived.
The HSE is being warned that mental health centres will be taken off the register of approved facilities unless compliance with regulations improves. The The Inspector of Mental Health Services has found 2,000 people are living in large mental health institutions despite policies as far back as the 1980s to close them. The Mental Health Commission says there's been improvement in mental health services in Ireland, but issues remain around the condition of some mental health service buildings, individual care planning, risk management and staffing. Commission Chief Executive John Farley says poorly performing centres face not being re-registered.
We can't continuously allow them to provide services that aren't fit for purpose, particularly the buildings. So what it means is that they need to make sure they're in compliance. I need a capital plan, a strategic plan showing that the state is going to put money into these buildings and make sure these buildings are fit for purpose.
There's calls for the motorised transport grant to be reinstated. The scheme, which provided funding for people with disabilities who needed to buy a car or adopt an existing one, was scrapped 10 years ago with plans for review to be carried out. However, that has yet to come to fruition. Councillor Martin McDermott says there is a serious need for the grants to be made available to people in Donegal due to the lack of infrastructure in the county.
We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the transport that towns like Galway or Dublin or Cork or them type of areas, Limerick, would have infrastructure, would have transport that allows these people to get out and about and allows people with disabilities to get out and about. We don't have that because everywhere you go in rural Donegal, here in Donegal, you have to get transport to get there. So it would be vitally important for them people and vitally important for their families as well, because it allows them to go to places.
55% of farmers have been the victim of a burglary, with some thefts carried out by roaming gangs of criminals. A new study carried out by TU Dublin and the IFA heard from victims of crime within the farming community. 60% of farmers say they'd like to see a dedicated Garda unit set up to deal with farm theft and rural crime. Rural Independent TD Matthew McGrath says it has become a major problem.
It goes in kind of troughs and slides, and areas get a very bad doing. Then maybe there's activity with local textile groups alongside the Gardaí and they move off. But roving bands of criminals are causing damage, trespass and indeed many, many serious burglaries and intimidation.
Weather now staying dry across most areas today with spells of sunshine, highest temperatures of 18 to 22 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices for this Friday morning, June the 9th. The death has taken place of Diane Bradley, née Sayers, 45, Carrickstrand, Strabane, and formerly of Camden Town, London, reposing at her home. Funeral leaving her home tomorrow morning at 10:20 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Castlefin at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Family time, please, from 11 o'clock tonight. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish Facebook page. The death has occurred of Seamus Kelly, Strana Clay, Elise Ballymagan, Buncrana. His remains are reposing at his home. Funeral tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Cockhill, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time, please, from 10 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. And the death has occurred of Maeve Murray, née Nolan, Castlebean, Letterkenny, reposing at her daughter Dee McGuyan's residence at Lisnenin. Funeral from there today to the Church of the Irish Martyrs, Ballyrean, Letterkenny, for 1 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed online at the parish YouTube channel, followed by burial in the family plot in Cornwall Cemetery. Family time, please, before the funeral today. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of wish to Hillcrest House Residents Comfort Fund, care of Pascal Blake, Funeral Director. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like get 2 large Super Value Signature Taste pizzas plus 1 Super Value Garlic Baguette 2-pack and 1 selected Super Value coleslaw, all for €8. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
And you're very welcome back to the programme. Thanks so much for being with us this Friday morning. And thanks again to our panel and all of you who contributed throughout. Let's get to some of those messages, shall we? And then we'll take a break for the bingo numbers. Good morning, Greg. 10 years ago, 10 years, that woman said, surely if they're able to go back home for a holiday, they can go back to stay. Why are we allowing our government to abuse our money with negligent spending? 30 million a week, Greg, of our money, not EU money, as you always claimed. I never always claimed that. In the first reaction, there was money from Europe that was rediverted to that. And on this programme, on numerous occasions, I can't think of the figure off the top of my head, it was stated that accommodating refugees and international asylum applicants was budgeted for, and it was included in the budget, and that was stated very clearly on this programme. One followed the other. There was money diverted initially, and then that changed, and that was, as I say, highlighted on this show. Morning. Call a spade a spade. The vast majority of these migrants are here for the benefit system we have here. There are wars going on for years and years and not a word about housing migrants or refugees. Sick to the back teeth of it. We as a country have not got the capacity to deal with anymore. Look at our own people suffering with all the poor services we have. It's a disgrace. Now, we have been taking in asylum seekers for every year for as long as I can recall. That woman is completely wrong. She may be the only one happy about 50 Ukrainians put in a Gaeltacht village as she doesn't speak Irish. It's bizarre. There is no health centre, post office or any facility for anyone in the village. Is she standing for election? No, as far as I'm aware. There's a huge problem in this country under the Fine Gael Fianna Fáil leadership. People want to vote Sinn Féin to give them an opportunity to change it because nothing is happening at the moment. Yeah, indeed. I think there certainly is a sentiment out there. Good morning, Greg. It was 75% of the population since the start, yet it was only a minority of people, we were told by Lisa and her gang. Lisa doesn't want a referendum because the gravy train of refugees would stop. Not a good look for our EU puppet government, and Lisa knows this. It's time for an election. Who are you going to elect, by the way? Because there is no major opposition party proposing any change to the system we have at the moment. They're not backing or proposing a referendum, which would be constitutional change. So who would you be voting for in the next election then, in that case? Does Lisa think that those arriving here who've been refused asylum elsewhere should be deported because that is what is happening? Nothing to do either for the Ukrainians, by the way. I think that if you land on the soil, regardless of where you come from or how you got here, you have to be considered for asylum. Greg, as someone who works in social welfare, I can assure you the public, many of the Ukrainian population are actually returning home. It's the other nations who are coming here and staying. Greg, I've asked this question of several people and no one can answer it. How can someone here claiming asylum go back to their own country on holiday and return here to accommodation if they're actually claiming asylum? I don't believe they can. Ukrainians aren't here. They're not here in terms of in the same way as asylum seekers are. So if you're talking about Ukrainian people, it's different for them. I'm not sure someone can leave a direct provision centre or accommodation and fly back to, say, Syria, for an example, and return. If that's happening, let me know more details. Greg, Irish people don't want these unvetted males. Look what happened in France yesterday. I mean, but I get what you're saying, but people seem to ignore what's happening in the courts in this country every day of the week and what's happened here historically. But as I say, I'm not here to push any particular agenda, just to facilitate the conversation. There was never a mention of the job losses at Maui and Fanad, but when you look at how many jobs that were created from Cara, Creaslock, Carragart, Downings, Milford, Fanad, Kerrykill, Glenvar, Rathmullen, Rathmelton, it looks like our politicians have gone to sleep. Well, we covered the job losses on Maui on this show. At the time, the staff were informed. I haven't heard anything since, actually. There is no way the TD's wages are justifiable. The period of government is too long, or governing is too long. It should be no longer than 3 years to keep them on their toes. But some would argue that the way we do elections at the moment is stifling that we go in cycles of 5 years, that we need to approach housing in a much more long format, or health, or the big issues, and budgets as well. You know, the fact that we'll have a in inverted commas giveaway budget before an election. You know, is that really a fantastic way of working? Look where we're at. Reducing that further, I'm not sure how that might impact it. I was in a bus last week, having had to pay for my trip at 65 on a widow's pension, my only income. I can't get free travel, but entire families, not Irish natives, some only a fraction of my age, with little or no English, were flashing their travel passes. Now, why couldn't you? Is it because you didn't book in advance? Let me know. If the country is doing so well, according to Lisa Chambers, why are we paying USC, etc.? You know, there are groups calling for increased taxes, that when an economy is strong like ours is supposed to be, that we don't feel it. I think IBEC are amongst those that are saying people should be taxed more right now. Hi, Greg. Can you discuss Stephen Donnelly announcing the creation of 6 hubs to alleviate pressure on the ED? Not one anywhere north of Galway. If so, we are definitely being left out and forgotten about. Ask the government rep to explain this if it's true. Thank you. I just got that now. It's something we'll be covering ourselves in the not too distant future. The professor is right. This country is being run into the ground by this government. They will leave us all starving, homeless and marred in poverty, while the asylum seekers thrive on handouts, free housing, free travel. We can't look after our own people, yet we're still taking in people from other countries. Now, if you have an opposing point of view to that as well, because, you know, maybe those who are anti the refugee policy might be more inclined to message in, and I do want as much as possible to balance it as we can. Right, okay, let's take a break for those that outbreak, including the bingo numbers, and we'll be right back with more in the 9 till noon show shortly.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 9th of June. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S15. It's game number 23. The numbers are 46, 62, 30, 80, 31, 2, 54, 71, 65, and finally 37. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
For the biggest names into perfume and aftershaves, visit McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Dolce & Gabbana, Paco Rabanne, Carolina Herrera, Calvin Klein, Jimmy Choo and Burberry, Ariana Grande, Jean-Paul Gaultier, Vera Wang and many more. From timeless classics to celebrity favourites, there's a perfume or aftershave for everyone at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie.
Did you know that all household electronic and lighting items are free to recycle? When you recycle e-waste, you're not just preventing it going to landfill, you're also giving it new life, recovering valuable resources that can be used again, and stopping harmful substances from entering our environment. Recycle for free with WE at your local authority recycling centre or participating electrical retailer. Visit weIreland.ie for details. A message from We Ireland, the government-approved scheme for electrical and battery recycling.
The Donegal Hospice welcome everyone to join them at their anniversary celebrations on Friday the 23rd of June at the Mount Errigal Hotel. To celebrate 20 years of our wonderful hospice building and over 35 years of our home care service, we are celebrating with a Dine and Dance fundraiser. Join us and enjoy a 5-course meal, music and DJ, and help raise much needed funds for the hospice. Tickets are available from the Mount Errigal Hotel and are priced at €60 each. All proceeds of the event go to the Donegal Hospice.
Okay, right. Now, on the 12th of June, between 12 and 2 p.m, a cross-border youth manifesto will be launched, and we're joined by a number of guests to discuss this. First, we'll say hello to Joe McBride, who's a teacher of politics and society and lead cooperative teacher on the cross-border Pareto for Progression initiative. So, good morning, Joe. Can you give us an idea as to how we arrived at this point?
Good morning, Greg, and thanks very much for having us on to talk about this great initiative. So it's an initiative that's stretched back to last year, and it's been funded by the International Fund for Ireland, and it's involved sort of intensive throughout the year, residentials and Zoom calls with a school in Portadown called Portadown College. And the idea behind it is just to bring young people from both sides of the border, from different backgrounds together, and to find a common understanding on issues that are common to all, and to empower them to present those issues and to lobby politicians and try to affect some kind of change, even on a very basic level. So we've been privileged to be part of it, and it's been, we didn't know what to expect when we got involved at the start of the year, but it's been a real journey we're on, and the journey continues now on Monday, and we're really looking forward to the launch. It's kind of sort of, I suppose, an end product, the youth manifesto, where they will present their 3 key issues that they've decided that appeals to them all, and something that they're all passionate about and that they want to advocate for.
Tiernan Lynch is a 5th-year politics and society student at Loreto Community School in Milford. Tiernan, have you enjoyed this process?
Thank you so much for having me, of course. This project has been an absolute fantastic experience. It has been honestly the opportunity of a lifetime to be able to have my voice heard and to be listened to, and just to overall be appreciated by society in general. In both sides of the border, on both sides of the border, we both feel as if there's many issues that we have that are common and yet uncommon at the same time.
Did that surprise you? Which surprised you more? The issues that you had in common with students in Armagh, or the issues that were different?
I think the issues that we had in common, especially for youth voice and mental health, we believe that mental health mainly has no borders and is an international problem overall. It's a horrible problem. And in terms of youth voice, we feel that on our side of the border, it's great. We have made many advantages in contrast to Northern Ireland on the other side of the border. So we feel like an all-island approach to youth voice would probably be the better option towards a better society for Ireland.
And when we talk about the youth voice in the Republic, if I phrase it like that, you say we've made great advances. Is that like in issues such as students' voices being heard in terms of conversations about the Leaving Cert or Junior Cert, or for that matter, or student representatives having input into, as I say, Department of Education matters? Is that the type of stuff we're talking about, or maybe explain that a little bit more to me?
I think in terms of education, we haven't really put our manifesto towards it. From my own personal experience on a student council and on Donegal Youth Council, we have made massive strides and we have made massive successes. As I only started my journey on Donegal Youth Council, we have made many advances. And on my student council, we made many progresses as well in our own school community. And in terms of the Leaving Cert and the Junior Cert, I feel like we haven't really prioritised it on our manifesto. But that's something that we could open up with our manifesto as well. I feel like although we are focusing on 3 topics, we can expand this and we can make a bigger manifesto and a more successful manifesto for politicians overall just to listen to us.
So what are the 3 headline topics?
Our 3 headline topics are social deprivation, mental health and body image, and youth participation.
Okay. I believe Chloe Martin's with us as well. Chloe, are you there? No, I don't think that's actually Chloe at all. It could just be someone else completely random. But hopefully, Chloe might be able to join us before the end of this item. So, Joe, talk to us about this document and this manifesto and how it will be launched on the 12th. Joe? Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, you can hear me okay. It's just come together in the last couple of weeks, really. It was... The early stages were just sort of getting to know you and trying to break down initial hesitations and break down a bit of barriers that might be there from the outset and so on. So they've kind of the way they did it, I thought it's very much come from the students up. As teachers, we're just there to kind of facilitate, and with great facilitators in Politics in Action who coordinate this. So they're the organisation based in Belfast that bring young people together from cross community areas and get them to work on issues that can empower their voices and so on. So it started with just a brainstorm where they literally let them fire out anything that came to their head or anything they were passionate about, and nothing was off the table, which I liked about this initiative. It wasn't one of these, kind of things where let's all hug and dance kind of initiatives. It was whatever you want to get off your chest, say it. There's a safe space, and don't be afraid if you might offend other people, as long as it's not deliberate and that you're able to back up your opinions with evidence and facts. So everything was put on the table, and then they did a type of a thing called a preferendum, where the students then basically voted for their top three. They had 3 votes, and it was kind of like a bit like PRSTV, I suppose, but it's transfers and all that, and we narrowed it down to three topics, and we took it from there. And like as Tiernan says, a lot of those issues, I suppose, in hindsight, like it was obvious that they would kind of come up because they don't recognise borders. Like, you know, mental health is a problem throughout the island and indeed throughout the world. And as is, I suppose, deprivation. And there are a lot of similarities. I was surprised by the similarities, probably maybe more so than the younger generation. But there's deprivation there, and like Donegal, I would say, is one of the most deprived parts of the Republic, if you want to use that term. And in the north, Portadown would have areas of severe deprivation as well, and the north as a whole would be one of the more deprived parts of the UK. So we had that in common, although there are differences. They're a bit more urban, they're better linked up with infrastructure into Belfast and so on when it comes to get access in third level. But with that, and then the youth voice, I think they were very impressed with the level of youth voice that we have here. Sometimes we're critical of it, but it was an eye-opener to see from their point of view. It's not really.
But on that, Tiernan, it's great to have the voice, but you have to be heard at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Yes. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen here, but it's important, and hopefully some of those invited guests will hear what the young people are saying and take those views on board. We don't just want lip service. Presumably you want to sort of say, right, well, can you come back to me in a time frame, and acknowledge what we've brought to you, and maybe even give us some indication as how you're going to action on it.
I think with some politicians, the idea of just ticking a box of just listening to young people and then just putting us aside will probably be a huge problem. I feel like politicians will have to listen to us, and I feel like from a watchdog perspective of Irish society, society will begin to look by seeing our manifesto. I think this manifesto can go even further. It can go to a national perspective. It can go huge. I think it's just a matter of putting the hard work in now. With our launch, I think this is probably step one towards it going even bigger and probably becoming even more successful. I think in Northern Ireland, with the Assembly not running, it could easily get back up and running again, with youth voice probably participating more and putting pressure on them to work together. I understand why unionists and nationalists would have differences, but the government do need to come together.
But no more so than, it's surprising and not surprising, no more so that we've seen through this process that the issues facing people in the Republic are very similar to those in the North. It doesn't really matter from which church you were born into, or none for that matter, and Northern Ireland is becoming more diverse all the while. The problems and the concerns are the same, really. When you strip away all the other stuff.
It's crazy to realise this, to be honest. It was just, when we first met them, we didn't realise how similar the problems were. From my own perspective, I thought that Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland problems were probably quite different because 2 separate countries, but from actually meeting these people and overall enjoying the project and getting into the project, once we really got into it, we actually realized that this island has more or less the exact same problems. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we need to walk into each other's shoes as North and South, mm-hmm. and really understand how we can deal with these problems and tackle them correctly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, and it depends on generations and ages, would realise that in reality, when you live up here, you've more in common with people in Northern Ireland than you might with people in Dublin, Cork and Kerry. It's just the way it is. We're Chloe is with us now, I believe. Chloe Martin, also a fifth-year politics and society student at Loreto Community School, Milford. Good afternoon, Chloe. Good morning,
Hi,
Chloe.
Sorry, I couldn't get into the meeting there.
No problem. We've been talking about the whole process and how you arrived at this manifesto, which is to be launched, but also through the process too, learning more about students in a different part of the world, forming friendships. I presume it's been quite enlightening and an opportunity for growth for all involved, Chloe.
Yeah, it definitely has been. I mean, you never really realise how similar we are because we come from such different cultures. But like we're literally across the border and they live 30 minutes away from Letterkenny, like, and you really realise through the project how important all the same issues are to all of us. And I mean, we were speaking about a United Ireland for a long time and with them, and we realised that that wasn't the main issue for us, and what we really cared about was issues that affected all of us together.
Joe, is there something that I'll come back to you in a sec, Chloe? Joe, is there something here too in that? Has this sort of maybe given us an insight into younger people's understanding of the politics on this island, what the North is, what the Republic is, what the relationship is, what the future might be? Because I do note in some of the language that there's this sense that there's a great difference there, but I actually wouldn't see that difference. Do you get where I'm coming from? And that's not a criticism or patronising, but I think actually, I'd be really interested in a this is kind of separate to some extent, a nationwide conversation amongst young people about, this island, the North and the South, and its future, because I think it could be quite enlightening, Joe.
Yeah, definitely, Greg. I think like young people are the future, and I've said it before, but like young people are miles ahead of the politicians, but they're also ahead of ourselves and the older generation. I think maybe they've heard stories of the troubles from the past, from the older generation passed down, and then they might have preconceptions, some of them, but most of them don't have those that same baggage or preconceptions of the other or anything like that. And from what I've learned from it is like symbolism and things like that, flag waving doesn't really matter to young people. It's the issues on the ground that really matter to them.
Yeah, your identity maybe is not primarily a flag or a religion.
No, definitely not. And I mean, they're much more. They're growing up in a much more diverse society than we would have as well. So I think that they're more comfortable with people expressing whatever identity they want to express, and it's just not an issue or a deal. And the real issues are things like mental health, or access to third level, access to services and so on. That's the issues that they want to talk about, and that's what gets them passionate. The surprising thing from it all, the United Ireland debate, when it came up, I thought, I was sitting back thinking, oh God, this could kick off or get hot and heavy, but it was far from it. It was actually quite mulled, or quite muted, and it was other issues, more modern, topical issues that got them firing. So I think that's a good thing too, and I think other things fall into place when you get people working together and you get people realizing that they have a lot more in common than divide them.
Yeah, just in terms of education here in the Northwest, funding per student, €100 less than other parts of the country. As I mentioned earlier in the show, we've got no professors north of a Dublin-Galway line. We have lower access to education here. Less people in Donegal and the Northwest as a whole go on to college, and then of course that has a knock-on effect in terms of job creation. It's all intertwined, and then of course you throw in access by road or train or plane or whatever. You can see why we're not just saying we're forgotten. We can demonstrate that we are. Chloe, finally, what are you speaking about on, or do you have to speak on Monday, and what are you going to be talking about?
Yeah, so I'm speaking about social deprivation and drug abuse. So basically, we're speaking about what solutions we can come to. So kind of having guards bring tighter laws down on the grooming and things that go on inside gangs and drug dealers. It is a huge issue at the minute, and we even see it in our own towns. And then as well, I was part of the youth participation group as well, same as Tiernan, and we're going to be speaking about getting something like a Donegal Youth Council up and running in the north.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it is, and I've spoken to many youth counsellors over the years, and it really, I think, is a great platform for them. And there is a sense that they're listened to, which I think is important. Tiernan, are you speaking on anything specifically as well yourself?
I'm speaking on the solutions of the youth participation. For example, what Chloe said, I would like to have a structure that we have in the south of a youth council in Northern Ireland. And in the future, from my own personal belief, in the youth participation group, we did have a divide in this, but we agree, well, most of us tend to agree, of course, that an all-island approach is the best solution for youth voice or youth participation. For example, 26 counties are weaker than 32, and 6 counties are weaker than 32. 32 counties are the strongest together. And if we can get the Northern Ireland Assembly and the Oireachtas, or the whatever it's called again, forgot, to work together and listen to us, I think that we have a stronger chance of making change. And
it'd be really interesting to see what kind of resistance or encouragement there would be for a youth council in the north, given the way that politics is a little bit different there, and what the makeup of the youth council might be and what their priorities might be. It could perhaps put certain public representatives in an awkward position, but maybe that's what we need. Okay, right. Is it open to the public on Monday, Joe? It's in the Mulroy Woods Hotel. And it's from 12 noon to 2 p.m. It's the Cross-Border Youth Manifesto launch, Pareto for Progression. Is it open to the public? I know there are invited guests.
Yes, it is indeed, Greg, and the more the merrier. We have the function room there and the Mulroy Woods booked for it, so we'd be delighted to have as many people there that can make it. We know Monday's not an ideal day, but if anyone there listening
it's as good a day as any other one.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah, you're never going to get a day to agree to everyone agree to, but no, yeah, if as many people as possible would be great, just to give them, they put a lot of effort into this, and the young people deserve a good kind of, I suppose it's the finale really for this year anyway, and we're looking at getting funding for it again to kind of really build on the momentum next year. But it'd be fantastic to get a good turnout and give them the send-off they deserve. We'll be going up to Portadown the following day then and doing the same thing up there in their local community centre. Okay. So
brilliant. And it's great to see a sense of something has been achieved and pride in that, and actually want to see it followed through on from the students. Joe, thanks very much indeed. Keep up the great work. Joe McBride, teacher of politics and society. Tiernan, what do you want to do with your qualifications? Do you know yet?
I would like to study in Queen's. On the Youth Manifesto project, we had the opportunity to travel to Queen's University for the 20th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. And all my life, my heart was set on studying in Dublin. I always wanted to go to Dublin. It was just a thing in our family. But the moment that I saw Queen's University, it was just life-changing. Yeah, it was like home.
Excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
Great to see the passion. All right, well done to you, Joe. Well done to you, Tiernan. That's Tiernan Lynch, who's a fifth-year politics and science student at Loreto, as is Chloe. What would you hope to do with your life post-school? What's your interests?
I hope to study English and politics and society in either Galway or Queen's, and I hope to go on to teach them then.
Well done. Okay, well, we wish you every success. Take care, Chloe. Well done to you and Tiernan and all the others involved in it. Have a lovely day. Okay, we'll be back with more shortly.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
This is National Food Waste Recycling Week, so here's a reminder to always separate waste food. Remember, both cooked and raw food, as well as compostable packaging, go in the food waste recycling bin. Be climate positive. Visit mywaste.ie for lots of excellent tips and tricks. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Oakfest, the family-friendly music festival, is back for 2 days, September the 9th and 10th at Oakfield Park. On Saturday, join the legendary Susie Quattro. The lineup also includes the Bay City Rollers, the Davy K Project, the Wailing Banshees, and local favourites Shearbuzz. Then on Sunday, there's Boys Life with Keith Duffy and Brian McFadden, Lisa McHugh, Honor, Rory on the Island, and more. Oakfest, Saturday the 9th and Sunday the 10th of September at Oakfield Park, Rafo. Tickets now on sale at oakfieldpark.com.
We love summer at Dunnes Stores. Save in the aisle when you mix and match any two for €4 across tasty sandwich fillers, deli meats and salads, including picnic favourites like classic falafel and fruity couscous. And take things up a level with a range of sauces, dressings and chutneys from just €1.50. Then save again at the till with our 5 off 25 grocery vouchers. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
Buying or moving home can be a strange mixture of excitement and stress. So the last thing you need is worrying about conveyancing. time to call McElhenney and Associates. They'll move that property transaction along swiftly, make sure everything's in order, and prevent any nasty surprises. Residential, commercial, leasing, or voluntary transfer. Call today on 074 917 5989 or find us online. We'll do the paperwork, you do the wallpaper. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. How can we help?
Celebrate Father's Day at Foyleside. Join us Saturday 17th of June, 1 to 4 p.m. and experience our thrilling VR driving simulator to win prizes. Challenge Dad to mini golf or capture memories with vintage cars, including the iconic DeLorean, with donations to Foyle Hospice. Plus, free draw to win a supercar driving experience. Father's Day at Foyleside. See you there.
All right, Councillor Michael McBride joins us on the programme now. Councillor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, Michael, you have a proposal before the next Letterkenny-Milford Municipal District meeting, which should make for an interesting vote. And it reads as follows, that the Letterkenny Municipal Area propose a vote of no confidence in Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien. So, is it obvious as to why you've brought this motion forward?
I suppose, Greg, just to give you a bit of history on it, I'm tabling the vote of no confidence in the Minister Darragh O'Brien for, at next Tuesday's Letterkenny Milford Municipal meeting. And the reason I'm doing that is that I tabled a motion about 8 months ago asking the Minister to meet us to discuss all the outstanding issues with Micah. At that time, we received a prompt response to say that, just to acknowledge the receipt of our letter. At the time, I kind of thought to myself, this is urgent, so I asked at that meeting that we would write back to the Minister again, highlighting the urgency of the situation, and we promptly received another response to say that they'd handed it over to a lady in the Minister's department and that they would get back to us when they could find the calendar date. So we find ourselves now 8 months on, and we've had absolutely no more correspondence with the Minister. And as far as I'm concerned, there's some serious issues here, to deal with, particularly around the whole Micah situation.
Well, you were one of the first, I think, to propose modular homes as a solution to this, and it was then eventually, it was ruled out effectively as not a solution. Why is that, though? Because we are seeing now the state has ordered 700 units of Ukrainian refugees for Ukrainian refugees, modular houses. Fair play, people need a roof over their head. Now, they're struggling to find sites to put them on, but they're due to be all up and running, beautiful-looking things, by December. So has anyone ever explained as to why, for instance, modular homes is not a solution for Donegal? Why not order 700 for Ukrainians, if that's what's required, no harm to that, and 250 cited in Letterkenny and in Inishone for people who can no longer live in their house safely, people that have been shafted by the system, that didn't properly make sure their houses were built correctly. Has an explanation ever been given to you as to why that's not a good enough option for the people of Donegal?
Greg, I agree with you 100% in what you're saying. I'm an elected representative put there by the people to represent them. And I've been asking questions about Micah now for a long, long time. And I just feel like I've been stonewalled and I've been kept completely out of the process. And I'm not happy about it. And that's the reason I'm taking this motion. And I'm going to turn up the heat on the Minister as best I possibly can. It's the only opportunity that I have to try and voice my opinion. And I've been, everywhere I go, every day, I'm being approached by people who are affected by Micah, and they're really distressed. There's a lot of issues out there, but I think that the modular homes is the one that we have to look at, because people are going to have to move out of their houses. I think the government are expecting people to move in with their brothers, sisters, parents, and so on and so forth. But we have a lot of people now.
Well, that was a suggestion from Senator Niall Blaney, I believe.
Yeah, and we have a lot of people now living in Donegal who have migrated to to our county. They don't have any relations. They've come here to work in the public service, to work in hospitals, to work in our multinational companies, and we're delighted to have them. They're integrated into our community, and these people don't have any safety valves, So we need to get on.
But what I would also think, I think what we should also recognise is, and we've spoken to experts in this regard, as we head into another winter as well. There are people living in houses that are unsafe, and yes, you could theoretically live in them for another winter, but in doing so, because there's no alternative, people are being exposed to the dangers of black mold, dampness, other conditions that are affecting their health and their children's health, and affecting their children's health in such a way that it might actually affect their health into adult life. We don't really have a figure on that, but there is no options for those people. They're stuck in those houses. Obviously people need to move out if their house is being rebuilt or if it is, physically about to fall in on them. But I would love to know how many people are out there that really need to move out of their houses for health reasons, but they can't because there's no alternative. And surely, if we ordered another 250, 300, 400 modular homes, I would imagine there's an awful lot of people would avail of them because it's currently unsafe and financially impossible for them to face into another autumn and winter in their broken houses.
I agree 100%. There are people living in conditions that just you'd hardly imagine. People with straps around the gables of their houses, people with acros inside holding up basin slabs. And I know from speaking to people who've had mica in their homes that, the cracks are getting so big that rodents are making their way into the house, plus the mold problems that you talk about. The list just goes on and on. Now, what I'm concerned about at this point in time, Greg, is the unfinished housing estates that we had in Donegal, which were a legacy of the Celtic Tiger. There was hundreds of them in this county. And 16 or 17 years later now, and still haven't been dealt with. There's this process going on. Now, the problem is with mica, we don't have the time. I'm saying mica, but we're talking about all the deleterious materials, and, we're not going to get into all that all the time, but we'll just refer to it as the mica homes. But, the people who are living in these homes, they don't have that kind of time on their side. And there are two things that we've got is alternative housing when they're out of their own homes, and we have to look as well, how many people have we got to rebuild the houses that are there? I think that's a massive problem.
But if we have a plan for the houses, let's then worry about who's going to build them. Do you know what I mean? Like approve 500 houses, and then let's start scratching our heads on about who's to build them. Do you know? I would like to see the plans announced and funded. Very finally, and in just 30 seconds, if you don't mind, this puts presumably this motion puts government politicians on a sticky wicket here. I mean, that's not a motivation here, is it? To put pressure on Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil councillors to vote no confidence in a government minister?
I would acknowledge that it probably will be very difficult for the other councillors, but somebody has to speak up for the people that are suffering with mica in their houses. And what we have to remember is all the councillors agreed that we wanted to have a meeting to discuss all these problems with the minister. He's absolutely stonewalled us. He hasn't included us. And the discussions, and I certainly haven't been invited to any forum that I was able to put the views forward. So, Greg, as much as it could be sticky wicket for some of them, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're elected by Donegal people to represent the people of Donegal. The people in Donegal have been let down by government time and time again with mica, and and we also have these issues, with taxes going on to concrete and the prices of it, and there's a lot of other issues as well. Of course there is,
and we'll tease them out again, and we have in the past. Okay, Michael, listen, sorry to rush things along. We'll obviously follow up with this after the meeting, but thank you very much for now. Councillor Michael McBride there.
At Manor Motors Opel, we're half-full type of people, which is how we come up with the Opel 50/50 finance offer. Choose from the Opel Crossland, Corsa or Mokka. Select your flexible payment option. Pair it with 3 years free servicing and meet your new other half. Discover more about Opel's 50/50 offer at the Opel Open Road event. See manormotors.ie for details. Finance is provided by way of a consumer hire purchase agreement by Bank of Ireland Finance. Lending criteria and conditions apply over 18s only. Ownership remains with Bank of Ireland until the final payment is made. Bank of Ireland trading as of Bank of Ireland Finance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Get ready for an epic summer with Irwin's Expert Electrical, Letterkenny and Buncrana. Everything you need to make the most of our Irish summers. From the highly sought after Ninja barbecues to outdoor speakers, Dyson fans, big screen TVs, Bluetooth speakers and small appliances. We've got you covered. Irwin Expert Electrical, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
Summer is sizzling, and so is the Easy Living Furniture Summer Sale, which has just been extended. With absolutely everything reduced, now is the time to spruce up your space with stylish furniture and unbeatable savings. From cosy sofas to elegant dining sets, we have the perfect pieces to transform your home. But hurry, this sizzling summer sale is only extended for a limited time only. Don't miss out on the hottest sale of the season. Visit Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
Don't miss the Kerrykill Vintage Rally this Saturday, 10th of June. Enjoy a great display of stationary engines, cars and tractors. There's also trade stalls, crafts and demonstrations, live music and children's amusements. That's the Kerrykill Vintage Rally at the church grounds this Saturday from 12 noon. Proceeds in aid of church funds and local charities.
Hello there, Farmer Tinny here. It's summer, and Tinny's Toys have loads of swings, slides, trampolines, goalposts, and many more outdoor toys and games. We've basketball stands, swing ball, sandpit diggers, kids' wheelbarrows, and when the sun finally gets out, we've loads of paddling pools. Of course, we still have what we're famous for, the largest range of ride-on and small farm toys and models in Ireland. Shop 24/7 tinnystoys.com or call into Leck Road, Letterkenny. Down by.
Enjoy top nosh for less dosh. Camille Thai in Letterkenny is ramping up the spice but turning down the price on dozens of mouth-watering meal deals. Save up to 32% on the Camille app or at camille.ie. For a delicious takeaway, delivery or sit-in Thai, make it Camille. Riverside Retail Park on the Neil T. Blaney Road, Letterkenny.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme. Colin Gracie's UK Sales Manager with Logan Air. Thank you very much for calling in to us.
Greg, absolute pleasure. And
I see you bought bribes, obviously looking for a soft interview.
Well, indeed. We have our famous Tonics caramel wafers.
I'm afraid to buy me out, it's going to involve flights. Chocolate bars.
Well, you get these free on board, so not a problem. Yeah.
Right. Talk to us about the services out of the North or West that Logan Air currently provide.
Absolutely. Well, Greg, we've been flying out of City of Derry for quite a number of years, and we actually operate the what they call the PSO route, the public sector obligation route from City of Derry to London. We recently were re-awarded the contract on that, and even more recently, as in at the start of May, we moved our services from Stansted into London Heathrow.
How did that go, Dan? Because for some people, and it really depends on what suits you best, it can be very subjective, right? But you get access to the views of all the passengers.
Absolutely.
Okay? And not just individuals that lived close to the other airport or were travelling there.
Yes.
This offers better connections and what have you. How has it been received, this switch?
Yeah. Well, the connectivity with London is second to none in terms of all of the London airports. When folk, the vast majority of passengers that we had flying to and from Stansted were going into London. Vast majority. Couple for maybe Cambridge, but 99% plus were into London. And what used to be the case, you had 2 trains an hour. It would take maybe 56, 57 minutes into Liverpool Street. And what we're now looking at is 3 flights a day from City of Derry into London Heathrow. And the connections to get into London, you can actually get to Liverpool Street now. If it was East London you're heading to, in 40 minutes on the new Elizabeth line.
What's capacity like? I mean, maybe you don't want to divulge actual figures for operational purposes, I don't know. But are you pleased with the capacity on the planes?
Well, yeah, capacity, we've actually increased. We used to just do peak 3 flights maybe on a Thursday and a Friday, and now that's year round, including the winter months that we're looking at, 2 on a Saturday, 2 on a Sunday. So absolutely, both the frequency and capacity has been upped.
Yeah, and in terms of a connection to Dublin, that comes up time and time again.
Indeed,
it was there before. We'd love to see it again. It would be presumably another PSO route. Is that something that the airline would be open to?
We would.
What would it take for it to happen, I suppose?
Well, there's 2 parts to that. The easy bit would be saying that absolutely we'd be interested in that sort of connectivity and opportunities to be presented without question of doubt. The harder bit is the political decisions and the financial backing, etc., for it, with it being a cross-border operation. But
we've done it before, haven't
absolutely.
We? So we have the blueprint.
Absolutely. And I think previously where it did miss out is you wouldn't have had the onwards connectivity opportunity, whereas, for example, with Loganair, with our partner carriers, which actually includes Aer Lingus, but the likes of Emirates, Qatar, Etihad, about 16 different airlines, we can give you that opportunity of a through ticket, through bag checks, which is currently in place via Heathrow around the world, but certainly that would be something we'd be interested in. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Right. What else is on offer for summer? Obviously, Glasgow's back.
Well, our Glasgow services, to start with, our Derry to Glasgow is going up to a daily service from the summer. But what we're absolutely delighted about, and it's a real marker being post-COVID restrictions again, is that the Donegal Carrickfinn service will be resuming direct Loganair to Glasgow, as in from the 1st of July, Saturday and Sunday. And then we've only recently, I think within the past week or so, been able to announce, because of response to demand, an additional third weekly service on a Wednesday. So we're really thrilled that's back.
And some people, again, and it can be very subjective, are saying the flights, if you wanted to go for a weekend away, or if you're going to watch a football match, what a lot of the demand would be here, that the flight times maybe don't make a great deal of sense in that regard. So you couldn't go on a Friday evening back on a Sunday evening, or Friday evening back Saturday evening. So when you look to schedule them, what are the considerations? Is it how many bums will be on the seats, or is it access to the airports or slots, or what's going on?
It's a huge mixture of factors that will come into that. So you've got your aircraft based at, whether it's in Glasgow or Derry or wherever, and you have to build your schedule from that with your strongest routes, and then adding to it. Now the Carrickfinn service is operated from a flight from Glasgow, so it'll be doing other services to the likes of Stornoway, to Islay, maybe up to Orkney. So it's quite an operation to try and fit that in. Ideally, certainly everybody would probably opt and love for that best time on whether it's a Thursday night or a Friday afternoon or whatever, and coming back on a Sunday. But where you lose one way, you might gain in another. So it's quite an operation to try and get that right and satisfy the demand right across the piece.
But for now, is that the schedule, or is it something that you're looking at?
Currently, that will be the schedule through the summer period, where we've got a Saturday afternoon and Sunday service going over to Glasgow from Carrickfinn, and then the Wednesday one is a mid-morning service on that. But then, as I said, we've got those options out of City of Derry as well, and as a daily service. Which
is actually probably more useful for certain people, depending on where you're living, of course.
Absolutely.
And also, too, we often, when we think of aeroplanes, we think of us getting on them and flying elsewhere. But there's often people that are flying in on them, and that's how the access, either Derry or Donegal, is inbound travel that are going to hang around for a week and then return home.
Absolutely. And as much as it's great for connectivity for the Northwest, from Donegal, from Derry, to get to London,
outward,
to get around the world, the flip side of that is, the world can now come into City of Derry via Heathrow on Loganair, with our connections with British Airways and Osend, United Airlines and people like that, changing at Heathrow and straight into City of Derry. When it came over from the airport yesterday, I think it was about 45 minutes, and that was at peak traffic times in the evening. So, really good connectivity there.
Do you think a lot of people get it, right? That you can, say you're planning to go somewhere around the world, that you can start your flight journey in Derry? Because most of the people I know, they're worried about how to park in Dublin, and they're getting a flight out of Dublin, right? Now, I don't know, maybe they do look at it and the cost is prohibitive. I don't know, you can inform me on that. But it's maybe this is why we're having conversations like this. It's getting the message across that you can start your flight journey, so to speak, from Derry to the rest of the world. You don't have to worry about a 3 or 4 hour drive to Dublin or what have you.
Absolutely, and this is a brand new game changer, really, since we started operating just about a month now, and where you can check in. Your baggage allowance will be the same as your international long haul, whether you're flying on Emirates or, say for example, one of our other partner airlines, Ethiopian Airlines, that have great connections throughout Africa down to South Africa. You'll get your 3 checked bags, your boarding pass, the whole way into Heathrow and beyond. And if there's any issues with weather or any sort of disruption, the passenger is fully protected and will be reaccommodated in the event of anything like that happening.
All right, what's the biggest challenge facing aviation? Is it getting, the green conversation? Is it about getting more efficient planes, more efficient fuel? I think we nearly were in a period whereby people were stopping to using planes because the conscience was getting the better of them, and then I think we had lockdown, and then people said stuff it, life's for living, so I'm not sure people are making a moral choice anymore because we can't park at certain airports because so many people are flying. But is that one of the greatest challenges to try and make planes more fuel efficient? Now, short haul actually is not a big deal, really, as far as my understanding is. It's the long haul flights, really, in terms of aviation, that are the problem. But
certainly the demand, as you quite rightly identify, post-COVID has come back, in leaps and bounds very, very strongly. After safety, our number one focus is very much looking at the environmental impact. And Loganair were actually the first UK airline to implement a compulsory levy on each ticket, a couple of pounds per ticket. That's reinvested into green energy and environmental projects globally. Surplus from that is then re-employed into the local markets. It might be a golf club or something that's putting in solar panelling.
It's kind of offsetting, really, more.
Offsetting, but those are only the initial steps. What we're also...
Do you ever have electric planes?
Well, I was just about to say we've already started trial flights up in Orkney, in the inter-island services in Orkney, working with the likes of Rolls-Royce, Cranfield University, where we're trialling electric-powered aircraft. But we feel that the larger, that's maybe fine up to maybe your 18, 28-seaters, but bigger than that, it'll probably be sustainable aviation fuels or using...
Pigs don't like sustainable aviation fuels. Anyway, we're too close to 11 to get into that.
Yeah.
But I think the airlines recognise they've...
Absolutely. And Greg, just what I should say as well, because it was first ever UK airline this week from Loganair, we had our first all-electric turnaround. Now what that means is all the ground services, the ground power, what used to be diesel tractors pushing back, we were the first airline to have a full electric turnaround.
So very finally, if someone wants to say, right, maybe I can fly from Derry to Dubai,
absolutely,
right? But what website do they go on to?
Well, with our partner carriers, either you would speak to your local travel agent, and we've got 2 excellent agents here in Letterkenny, local travel agent, or if you're looking at the likes of the British Airways website, the Emirates website, they will be able to
automatically integrate in your starting. You go to your starting point would be Derry, and then you can see from where.
Absolutely, for Dubai, for Mauritius, wherever.
Okay, right, okay. Don't be putting ideas in my head. All right. Colin Grace, the UK sales manager with Loganair. Thanks for calling up, and thanks for the treats as well. We'll take a break, which means the news is going to be 2 minutes late. But stay right where you are.
Thank you.
The Inishowen Vintage Weekend kicks off this Friday with Orla Ferry and David Craig Band. Saturday night it's DJ Rudders followed by Celtic Nights. Doors open at 9 p.m. with a late licence. This Sunday is the 21st annual Vintage and Family Fun Day with hundreds of vintage cars and tractors, a fashion show and live music in the marquee with Michaela Harkin. Backed by popular demand, there's wacky lawnmower racing. That's the Inishowen Vintage Weekend at Carrickfield, Moville.
National Heritage Week returns from August 12th to 20th, and this year celebrates living heritage. Organise an event by exploring and sharing the traditions, crafts and skills passed down through generations in your family or community. Visit heritageweek.ie for more. National Heritage Week is a programme of the Heritage Council supported by the Local Authorities Heritage Officer Network and the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage.
Northwest Regional College has launched its exciting range of part-time courses starting this September, and enrolments are now open. Whether it's a new skill or a new career direction, there's something on offer for everyone. For course details at our Derry, Londonderry, Limavady or Strabane campuses, visit nwrc.ac.uk/part-time. And remember, enrolments are now open. Future-proof your career with a part-time course at Northwest Regional College.
House Proud Summer Sofa Sale is now on across all stores. Sofas starting from just £399 plus an extra 15% of everything in store. Scorching hot deals with thousands of sofas in stock and ready for delivery. And buy now, pay later finance available. Call in to our Strabane Superstore located in Abercorn Square or shop online at houseproudfurnishings.com.
Join Derek Ryan for a night of dancing at the Clanry Hotel Letterkenny this Sunday the 11th of June. That's Derek Ryan live at the Clanry Hotel Letterkenny this Sunday the 11th of June. Pay at the door. Dancing from 9 till 11 p.m.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And I have in studio with me at 3 minutes past 11, Michaela Clark with a news update. Good morning, Michaela.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Donegal County Council has proposed a vote of no confidence in Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien. It's in response to lack of correspondence from the Minister to calls to meet with councillors to discuss the defective block crisis in Donegal, including the provision of modular homes for affected homeowners. The difference that Taoiseach has made to Donegal has been questioned. Micheál Martin has said that he will lead Fianna Fáil into the next general election. Dr Andrea Redmond, who is a member of the Duherry Development Group, however, says the state of the country cannot get any worse. Two Donegal Gardaí have been hailed for saving the life of a teenager in County Louth. Doctors said had life-saving treatment not been administered by the two members of An Garda Síochána, the teenager would not have survived. Their quick thinking, calm and measured response as a team has been praised. 55% of farmers have been the victim of a burglary, with some thefts carried out by roaming gangs of criminals. A new study carried out by TU Dublin and the IFA heard from victims of crime within the farming community. 60% of farmers say they'd like to see a dedicated Garda unit set up to deal with farm theft and rural crime. Surveying works for the National Broadband Plan are continuing in Donegal. Surveying works in the Carndonagh area have now been completed, with over 2,900 premises set to benefit from high-speed connectivity. €128 million is to be invested in Donegal under the National Broadband Plan. And repairs to a burst water main are ongoing in Inishowen. Irish Water is advising that supply disruptions may be experienced in the Ballylusky, Effishmore, Derry Road, Carndonagh and surrounding areas. A traffic management plan will be in place for the duration of the works, which are scheduled to take place until midday. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Michaela, thank you very much indeed. OK, we'll be taking a very short break. Then it's back with That's Entertainment.
Love a space to call your own. Live in the better built surroundings of a Glenveigh home.
Love having a sense of place. Live for shaping it from the get-go.
Love green spaces and the joy of outdoors. Live where lower environmental impact is a way of life.
In a home built more sustainably for comfort, quality and for people putting down roots just like you.
Love where you live. Community inspired and shaped by you and Glenveigh.
Home of the new.
Okay, we have a sub in today. It's Conor Malone, manager of the Ballard Theatre. Finuala's too busy with other things, seemingly, which is great because that means you get to come in, Conor.
Great. Good morning, Greg.
Accept our invite. And of course, the old reliable, emphasis on the word old, Michael, and reliable, actually, Michael Leddy, a writer and also a blogger.
Hello, Greg.
Limited renowned. Thank you very much.
There you go. The honesty in that intro was searing.
It's cruel, wasn't it?
It's cruel.
He's in a zingy mood.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yep, end of the week, 2-day week. It's a nice one, isn't it? Right, okay. Come here, Michael. What have you been watching? Narvik on Netflix is back on the agenda here.
Yes, we didn't get around to it last week. Yeah, this is a brand new film on Netflix. I watched it last week, last Thursday night. It's a true story from World War II, which is one of the things that drew me to it. And it's sort of below the radar. I don't think a lot of people know about it yet, although it's getting a lot of critical acclaim. It's a Norwegian film. So it's one of those films where the original dialogue is Norwegian, and obviously you can watch it with subtitles, as I did, or you can watch it dubbed, which I did not. It's a true story from World War II, and it's a very famous, which is now, I suppose, largely forgotten, but at the time it was very famous. It was a town in Norway that was the location of Hitler's first defeat. Both the Nazi forces and the Allied forces, England, etc., were very interested in this town because it was key towards ship production, and it was a key town. The rest of the country, the rest of Norway, capitulated as soon as Nazi forces showed up, and indeed on the night of their arrival in Narvik, the general or colonel or whoever was in charge handed over their weapon and did a very formal surrender on the street. But the sergeant, they were supposed to report back to the barracks, but the sergeant instead took his platoon out of the town and into the mountains and decided they were not going to surrender, and the townspeople joined in that as well, and they fought a resistance through the spring of that year. So this is a true story, and what the makers of this very good film have done is they have created a fictionalized family to put at the center of it so they can tell the story that way. The husband is a soldier, the wife works in the hotel. The story is divided between the two of them, and so we get to see what happens to him and the platoon. We get to see what happens to her because she has to work with the Nazis. They take over the hotel. She works there. She's not the manageress, but her and the manageress are both featured, and some of the kitchen staff. And they get to know some of the Nazis, and they have a sort of an uneasy friendship with them almost, you know. I mean, obviously they're not friends, but
is it like the Streisand effect or something different?
Yeah, it's almost. I know. I know the thing. You're Stockholm. Is it? That was the Stockholm effect. That was the
Stockholm.
One? Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's kind of like me and you, Greg. It's kind of like us.
No, I don't like being corrected.
So, I thought this was an excellent movie.
Is it heavy?
It is quite heavy. It delivers on the action, which you would expect of a World War II picture. I mean, there is a sequence where, you know, the sequence we've all seen in World War II movies or war movies where they have to blow up the bridge.
No, you're right about the effect.
Before the train comes, and they're climbing up, and it was really thrilling. And there's a sequence at the end where they have to storm the gun and they have to do all that stuff. But it also looks at the moral implications of what the woman has to do and how she survives in the town. I was surprised to see that in it, but I had no problem with that. It was a little heavier than I was expecting from what I thought might be an action movie. It delivers the action, but it is thought-provoking. I definitely feel that if there had been anyone in the room, but sadly I was sitting there on my own watching this, but if there had been anyone there, I think we could have had a discussion. You would chat about...
Right. Is it not just a wee bit, could you not just watch the news? No, and I don't mean that,
To discuss that. Well,
to see the horrors of
the world. Well, I mean, it's a historical piece. I mean, it's worth telling the story, and I think it's very timely because of things that are happening in all parts of the world, but specifically Ukraine.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a fictionalized version of a true story, but it resonates because of what is in the news. I think it's worth watching because it does provide entertainment value.
Yeah,
but it's thought-provoking as well as giving action. I would heartily recommend this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It delivered what I wanted, but it delivered a little bit more than what I wanted. I didn't realize it would be quite that thought-provoking. great performances, great action sequences. And it was a story I didn't know anything about. I didn't know that this was a turn.
And is this a big deal? Coming to Norway, you said, made this.
Yeah, it's Norway.
Is that a big deal? Are they? What's their reputation like for making big films?
Yeah, looking at the IMDb for the people involved in this, they have scant amount of credits. So I'm inclined to agree with you. Yeah, it seems to be. Without reading into that specifically, it does seem to be a big deal, certainly for these people. Like the lead actress has something like 4 credits, the director, they only have a few things. So I would imagine it's one of those things where, Netflix has gotten, it's where Netflix's bucks have gone to something good. Critics have embraced the movie. Critics have said it deserves all the praise that last year's All Quiet on the Western Front, which was a similar we got to say, it's this year's version of that almost, in the sense that it deserves that critical acclaim. And yeah, it's something unusual in the sense that it comes from Norway and it's Norwegian. And if nothing else, there's snow on the ground in every scene, and you don't see that in most World War II pictures. It's something different, you know. I mean, they're out in the cold.
Tickles your fancy, Connor? People tend to, in your house, watch foreign language films that end up speaking that language, don't they, if I remember correctly?
War films have always been a turn-off for me.
Me too. Okay. I kind of wasn't going to be that direct. It's like, oh.
Because it's like, there's always sort of a preachy, goody, baddie element to it, and it's like, I know this happened. I can watch history documentaries and stuff, and if I, or read a history book, so I've kind of.
Like anything that glorifies even a battle or something, to me, doesn't rest easy with me. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but even like one person's heroic actions or a particular village, I can't stop my mind going back to, well, what started this? What was the motivation? Who benefited from it? Do you know what I mean? The bigger picture clouds it for me.
I remember, I think Saving Private Ryan was my final turn-off for war films.
Yeah.
But every war film I watch, I think, there nearly should be at the top of the screen these like 4 fat men moving chess pieces around the board and facing no consequences whatsoever while they send all the lads out to die, and it annoys me too much.
I would love to see us have more awareness of what's going on at the moment.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Not getting serious on it, but I mean, if you see what's happening in eastern Ukraine, young lads and some women, in effectively, and it's a horrible phrase, meat grinders, like just literally being sent in, like the ones over the top in the First World War. Like, in other words, we are living through it as we speak, if you know what I'm on about. Like, and I understand how it's but there are thousands upon thousands of young people sent literally into a meat grinder. They're sent to their death. There's no doubt about it. And they're conscripted on both sides, which I don't think an awful lot of people realise. That there's even some talk of people who've left the area being rounded up in different countries to go back and do their thing. And as I say, I don't want to be serious on it, but I find myself in that mind space which switches me off these types of...
And don't you just know, there's groups of film executives sitting around going, hey, war is selling right now. Let's make a load of war movies. And just that kind of
cynicism. Are we cynical though? And
I think
Michael is happy?
I think there's an element there. I think if you open the door on that, then you say, we can't do war pictures because there's war in the world. We can't do crime pictures because you are. Yeah. You're also saying you can't do a story of where a husband abuses his wife.
No,
you are.
It's not
you
saying,
are.
No,
You're opening this door on that.
Because a crime is.
You're saying you can't fictionalise what's happening.
No, I'm saying you can.
You can.
I'm just not going to watch it and enjoy it.
Yes, but then some people might not want to see a misogynistic kind of story where a husband beats up his wife.
Correct. You would have to have some rich man pulling the strings, making the husband abuse his wife and getting away scot-free.
But that's if you're going to that
and then a whole group of people profiteering on it, and then
that's
maybe
the aspect of the war that you're finding objectionable. But if you're saying...
Well, there's the killing as well.
Yeah, but there's the aspect of it.
But it clouds it to the point where I wouldn't enjoy it. I love one of my favourite shows, I've said it before, it's the First 48. It's horrendous. It starts with a murder every episode, right?
Yeah. And it's true,
but these are the individual actions of people. And then you could probably talk about what's happening in society that causes this to happen in the gun culture in America. Of course you could.
Yes.
But it's just the particular things about war, how they're messaged, how they're covered in various news channels, that it all is so murky that I just wouldn't enjoy that type of film, Michael.
I'm not
saying they shouldn't be made.
Yeah.
Like Pearl Harbor, Band of Brothers.
Yes. I think it's a
Hacksaw
specific
Ridge.
viewpoint. I mean, it is a very specific viewpoint. I see where you're coming from. But at the same time, I think, if nothing else, fiction can be cathartic. I mean, you can look at these things. I mean, you can take that, you can read that from the material, but then you can also read, should we not look at the battle of good versus evil, which happens today?
But who defines who's good and evil?
But should you not, well, if people are in a town and a occupying force takes the town, I don't think it's that black. I don't think it's that murky.
Right, it's individual battle within the wider context.
It's about a housewife who basically...
Actually, it's Rupert Murdoch, isn't it? That's who defines who's good
and evil.
This
has got very heavy, guys.
It is. But anyway, listen, you're giving it full marks.
Oh, full marks.
Connor's not going to watch it. I read on Callian Kuhn celebrating winning 2 gongs at the Celtic Media Festival in Donegal, which is great. It won the Spirit of the Festival and Torque for Single Drama Awards at this year's event at Clochan. It already scooped a nomination for an Oscar earlier this year and won 8 IFTAs in 2022. Was this just the darling of Irish film industry, or did it deserve all these accolades?
Deserved.
I haven't seen it.
Deserved.
Yeah.
You see it? Deserved it.
Did you see
deserved it?
No, I haven't. It's the list. It's the next thing that I have to watch when I finish watching what I'm watching kind of thing. I never finish watching what I'm watching.
I have about 5 or 6 programs that are always on the list.
Yeah.
But something will come out and go ahead of it. So they're there perpetually to the point where I've...
Or when you're finally about to sit down and watch it, you get a phone call and you have to go somewhere.
Yes. I watched the Bling Ring on it was made into a film 7 or 8 years ago. It's a documentary on Netflix. Interested in any listeners who've watched it? 086 60 25,000. It's about teenagers that started robbing celebrity houses in Hollywood, and how they came to do it, and the people involved have got good access to it, and conflicting stories and all that kind of stuff. It's another one of those kind of talking head ones, but there's a bit of reconstruction. It's not bad, but again...
Can you hear the interviewer?
No.
I knew it!
The producer's sitting there asking questions off mic, and I'm like, oh, don't do this to us. But anyway, I wonder...
We're like, our producer is outside, but he has a question. He's going to lean in the window.
The camera, just have a mic plugged into the camera and go, But anyway, listen, if anyone watched that, let us know. And I watched an absolutely terrible film on Amazon last night. I'm not even going to talk about it.
Oh, please. Please.
It's called Shattered. And it was trying to be a cross between like Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct, Misery, and it's just so cliched
Misery.
and terrible. You might actually enjoy it because it's so corny and cliched.
You could embrace
because you like your B films.
Oh, I do.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, cheesy.
Sometimes you want to, whereas it doesn't tax you.
Yes.
There's no surprises. I knew this was coming.
It's like one of the characters, when they turn bad, all of a sudden the head tilts to one side and there's a smile and they start speaking like this. And I'm thinking, right, is this a joke? No, it's not.
I really love it.
I think it's called Shattered. But anyway, it's past an hour and a half, but I wish I had passed it another way. Shall we take a quick break and then we'll talk about the celebration of Father Ted coming up at the Bala. We're in the company of Michael Leddy, writer and blogger, Conor Malone, manager at the Bala Theatre, and you at home, at work, wherever. Get involved in the conversation. Give us a call on 07491 25000 or text or WhatsApp 086 60 25000. More from the gents in just a moment.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
I have the right to make the decisions that matter to me.
Decisions about my money, my property, where I live.
Decisions about care and medical treatment.
If any form would support.
The new decision support service can help.
And if I want to plan ahead so that my wishes are always known and respected, I can do that too.
The decision support service can help me and those close to me
to understand the options available.
My decisions.
My rights.
To find out more, visit decisionsupportservice.ie.
Summer is sizzling, and so is the Easy Living Furniture Summer Sale, which has just been extended. With absolutely everything reduced, now is the time to spruce up your space with stylish furniture and unbeatable savings. From cosy sofas to elegant dining sets, we have the perfect pieces to transform your home. But hurry, this sizzling summer sale is only extended for a limited time only. Don't miss out on the hottest sale of the season. Visit Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
This is National Food Waste Recycling Week, so here's a reminder to always separate waste food. Remember, both cooked and raw food, as well as compostable packaging, go in the food waste recycling bin. Be climate positive. Visit mywaste.ie for lots of excellent tips and tricks. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Summer sale now on in Milford Tiles. 20% off wall and floor tiles. 15% off all bathware. 10% off all wood flooring. Fitters and delivery service available. Call Milford Tiles on 083 0910 707.
Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors, serving Letterkenny and the surrounding areas for over 100 years. Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors. Let our family take care of your family and guide you through a difficult time.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The time is 11:22 and it's time to wish Eugene McNulty in St. Johnstone a very happy birthday. This is coming in for you, Eugene, from daughter Eugenia, Peter, Owen and Marley in Dublin. And another request for you, Eugene, this time coming in from Paddy and all the crew in Derry. Watch the swarm on Sky. The animals of the sea fight back against humanity. Enjoyed it up until the end. Set up for second season. Haven't seen or heard anything about that. Okay. Let me see. Hi, I'm sending an email in the hope that you might very kindly advertise that the Clohan Centre in Glenfin is hosting a quiz in aid of the Donegal-Galway Cancer Bus service. It's tonight at 9 p.m. We're a charity. And we know how important it is to keep and help local services. So if you're interested in the quiz tonight at 9 o'clock in the Clohan Centre... No, it's not in the Clohan Centre, is it? Yeah. The Clohan Centre in Glenfin is hosting... It is there. It's hosting a quiz in aid of the Donegal-Galway Cancer Bus service. A listener says... Hi, Greg, can you please ask Connor, when is the Ballard going to stop putting on more family children's shows? If we want to see children's shows, we often have to go to An Greenon, the Aline Straban or the R Down in Enniskillen. It's such a pity when there's such a nice theatre in our own town. Love the show. Thanks. Okay.
Funny you should mention that because on this Sunday at 3 p.m. we are hosting auditions for our summer youth musical. We used to do a summer youth musical every year, but this is actually it's the first one since 2019. So it's the first one in 4 years thanks to COVID. So anybody that is aged 13 plus, so 13 to about 18, 19, if you're interested, either lead parts, chorus parts, if you want to help out backstage, auditions are 3 o'clock this Sunday, and the musical itself will run in the first week of August.
All right, so it's a small enough window. It's going to be intense.
Yeah, it is an intense rehearsal period, but it's great. You could have up to like 60, 70 teenagers from the local community. And I mean, this is their summer. You know, you're 3-4 days a week rehearsing.
Brilliant.
There's a live band with it. You're rehearsing with them as well.
So do you know do we want to know which musical it is at this point?
Yes, it's a new musical that we've written ourselves.
Oh, cool.
Now, it's using existing 50s and 60s music.
Yeah.
But the actual, the book, the script is brand new. We've written it ourselves.
Excellent. So that's Sunday, you just roll up?
That's this Sunday, just roll up at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
We also have coming in as part of the Errigal Art Festival in July a show I'm really looking forward to called The Amazing Bubble Man.
Mm-hmm.
And look up the promo video for The Amazing Bubble Man on YouTube and you will see it's amazing, and he is a bubble man, you know, but it is amazing.
It does what it says on the tin.
Exactly.
Right,
it's the Ron Seal title.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Right, now, also coming up, celebrations of Father Ted in the Ballad. What's this about? Well,
yes,
what's this about? But how tell us the structure of it.
Yeah, that's tonight. It's hosted by Joe Rooney, who played Father Damo in, he was the sort of the other novice priest that came and led Dougal astray. So, there's Joe, first and foremost. He's one of Ireland's longest and most revered stand-up comics. I mean, he was back in the old international bar days, and arguably there wouldn't be a stand-up scene in Ireland without Joe. So, I mean, Joe on his own is worth your money, but then they do all sorts of things, like there's a lovely girls competition, there's a dancing priests competition, so there's lots of audience interaction. I'm sure there's going to be a My Lovely Horse sing-along, and I'd be very disappointed if they didn't end with All Rise for the National Anthem and play Ghost Town. So it's a sort of an interactive nostalgia manic Father Ted trip.
How did Father Ted, do you think, manage to... there's lots of shows of popularity at their time, and then they cease. But this is maintained. It's the references, still the lovely girls and the... You know what I mean? What is it? Because the only thing I can think a little bit like is a wee bit like Fawlty Towers, but I think Father Ted even more so.
Yeah, I think the humour was so off the wall that it has this timeless quality to it. Because I remember watching bits of Father Ted and never getting it and going, I don't see what people see in this. And I actually remember I was in a friend's house one night and I remember the line, and then everything clicked, and it was Dougal said something about the Pope, and Ted goes, Dougal, the Pope is God's representative on earth. And Dougal goes, you'd think he'd be taller. And after that, all the absurd humour just clicked and made sense for me. But I think it's because of the absurdity of the humour. It's not rooted in anything really topical, and it just gives it this timeless quality.
Yep. Is it a show that you're
I'm actually on the cusp of starting another rewatch. I lined it up kind of and I only finished a rewatch a couple of years ago. I think the thing about Ted is, and I agree with everything that's been said before, but I think it's very rewatchable. I think, and that's where it also stands up there with Fawlty Towers, which I also rewatched and finished recently. It stands up. I mean, there's good shows that they're funny and all, like a lot of American sitcoms, and I'm a fan of them, but they're not, you don't immediately want to go back 5, 10, 15 years later and rewatch them. Parks and Rec was a great show, but I'm not driven to rewatch any of the episodes. There's some shows that's really pay when you rewatch them. Ted is one of those. You go back and revisit it 5, 10 years later, you'll just see stuff and it'll seem fresh.
Do you think Dairy Girls will have the same longevity?
I don't know. I haven't seen that one yet at all, so I don't know.
Connor?
No.
Just won't. I mean, obviously it was big, but it won't just.
It was big. I think Dairy Girls is more of a time or a place, and that's not a criticism.
No, it's hugely popular.
And I just wonder, in 10 years down the line, will it resonate the way it did? My hunch is no.
Yeah, okay. Celebrations of Father Ted in the Ballard tonight. Tickets available.
8 p.m. Tickets available, yeah.
At the box office.
07491311840.
You can turn up on the night.
You can turn up on the night.
Okay, right, brilliant. There's capacity there. All right, okay. Let us go now to Star Trek Lower Decks on Amazon.
Yes. So I'm coming to the end of the second season of this.
Are they running out of things to do Star Treks about now? This is Lower Decks, so we're not in...
Yeah, it's basically, it's the people who don't get to go on the exciting missions.
Right, so they are running out of...
Yeah. It's a half-hour comedy series.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And it's an animated show, very much in the style of the great Futurama or... I'm trying to think of some of the...
Animated?
Oh, it's an animated show,
okay,
it's an animated show. There's 3 Star Trek animated shows, one from the 70s and 2 that are currently in production. The 2 that are in production at the moment are brilliant. One of them is a serious drama, and this one is just a flat out comedy. But what makes it, and it's on Amazon, what makes it interesting is it still adheres loosely, but it adheres to the rules of Star Trek. It fits into the timelines. It doesn't deviate things too much from what could happen in a live action episode. And what's very exciting about it at the moment is the 2 leads on this are actually crossing over into Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is about to come back for season 2, but it's going to be their live action versions. The real actors are going to appear in the episode.
They're not going to have cartoons walk on the screen.
No, but they are going to have some of the episode animated. Well, they actually are.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they losing the run of themselves, though? I mean, it's not absolutely exhausting a franchise, no?
No,
it's exhausted because you can have Star Trek holodeck.
Yeah.
And you can go anywhere you want forever.
Okay, right.
I would say critics and fans have embraced this and Strange New Worlds. It's more creative and more exciting than Star Trek has been in years, because some of the shows they had, like Discovery and the early seasons, seasons of Picard were terrible, but they seem to have found their mojo. The bottom line for Lower Decks is the 3 seasons are up. I've seen 2 of the 3 seasons. It's very funny. It's really funny. Okay. And it works on... It's not so much whether you care about the Star Trek elements, but you can watch it because the main guy is this insecure character who's striving for promotion. He cares too much about everything that happens around him and cares about the littlest things. His best mate, she doesn't care about anything. They're a great partnership. You know, that's a lot of these comedies, whether it's Red Dwarf, whether it's Ted.
He does like his cliches, doesn't he?
Yeah. But it's
like
this
buddy cop movie.
Yes. But it's like, it works. I know what you did. But
you're suspended from the force.
And you got 48 hours to clear your name.
Go visit.
But it works because they're polar opposites, but they are best friends, and it's very funny, and it brings in a lot of they had a character called Badgie on the holodeck who was based on, do you remember that annoying paperclip that used to appear on Microsoft products years ago?
Yeah,
Can I help you?
Yeah.
So Badgie is voiced by one of the guys from 30 Rock, but he's somewhat deranged, so he pops up on the holodeck and the safety protocols are off, and he's like helping you, but he's like, let me teach you a lesson. And they basically have an episode where Badgie is trying to kill them. So if you like the idea of the paperclip that used to annoy you in Microsoft products 25 years ago coming after you to kill you, then this type of Star Trek humour would work. It's a brilliant show. It gets better every season. If you like Futurama,
do you think people
love Futurama.
who watched Voyager or something will watch this?
Yes.
Or will it be a certain type of Star Trek fan?
No, I think it's already coming back for its 4th season this year. It has been embraced. Like it has.
The Vulcans won't like it.
The Vulcans won't like it. It has been embraced. No, I mean, it has. I think, broadly speaking, Star Trek fans are probably more accepting than Star Wars fans who hate everything. Like, I meet Star... well, they do.
Fight.
I know. I know people, I won't name check them on air, who'll say to me, Michael, do you watch Star Wars? And I'll say, I don't really. And then they'll talk for 20 minutes about what's wrong with all the Star Wars movies.
Yeah, but your life is like the conflict between Star Trek, Star Wars, Android, Apple.
It is.
Those universes thingamajigs with the superheroes in them. Marvel versus...
I have taught him well,
Marvel
Conor.
versus...
He almost can say Marvel and DC. He knows they exist. He doesn't quite...
You love it.
I do. I love it. Yeah, I love it. But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, I think fans will embrace it. And if you're not even that into Star Wars or Star Trek, sorry, but if you loved, I mean, I'm sure everybody loved Futurama. Futurama was brilliant. Bender.
So do you think Star Trek watchers are Republic or Democrats?
Do you know what might be really therapeutic for you? Is just start supporting a football team or something. Get all that tribalism out of you.
Oh, wow, yeah. I could do that, actually.
I think you'd end up being really violent and getting banned from
he'd be one of the ultras.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a good show. It's on Amazon. It's worth watching, and it's going to be cool in a couple of weeks this summer because you're going to get to see... I mean, that's an unusual thing. Yeah. The cartoon versions... The same actors, and luckily the animated characters are drawn to look. They were always drawn to look a bit like the actors. I think Disney do that as well, don't they? Disney do that as well. So
and the tagline is Star Trek Lower Decks goes boldly goes where no Star Trek has gone before.
Yes, really. Yeah, that's what. Yeah. And it all started many years ago on the original Next Generation. There was an episode of Next Generation back in the early 90s, which put the focus on 4 guest characters who were like sitting. In the canteen, as it were, in Tin Forward, just saying about, I wonder what they're doing down on that planet. Well, anyway, I better go and clean the the conference room. So there was always this idea, and fans were like, well, why don't we focus on those characters, the ones who don't get to do anything exciting and don't know, like they know there's a ship outside attacking us, but we're like, who's attacking us? No one tells them. So this guy,
it is kind of interesting.
It's funny. Well, yeah.
I think maybe if it was live action, I'd probably be more interested.
Yeah. Well, you don't watch. Well, look. Here's the question, right?
No, I watched Love Voyager and
No, but do you watch any of the? Like, did you watch Futurama? No.
Yeah. I went through a spell where it or The Simpsons was on at 7:00 in the evening, and I just watched it. You know what I mean? Yeah. There was no appointment there, but I might have been eating my microwave dinner as it came on. I
shared a house, a guy called Jerry, lovely guy down in Cork now. He that was his routine. He got in before 7.
Do you know what ruined Futurama and Simpsons for me?
Nothing.
TV dinners.
Family Guy.
Oh, Family Guy's great.
It was so edgy, right?
Yeah, very different. Yeah.
When there, I found that even though there was some clever jokes in there, I found the likes of Futurama and The Simpsons sanitized almost.
Bland.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just thought it was so on point, so mature, so pushing the barriers a wee bit, you know what I mean? Saying stuff you couldn't say. To go back to Homer having a row with Mr. Burns or something, it just felt like I was...
I know what you're saying, but I still... of course, yeah, totally. But I still think, if nothing else, Bender is one of the great comedy. Like the episode where they open, like I quote somebody, but where they open the door and there's like a baby and like Leela is like, it looks like a baby, and Bender is like, I'll kill it. It's like
there was so much in Family Guy that you could not have got away with live action.
Yeah.
It could only have worked as a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly.
And the chicken fights, which were spectacular. Remember when when you get into the random fights and they'd go on for like 10 minutes?
Yeah. They'd ran
never explained
anti-Semitic jokes at that point or something, yeah.
So good.
Do they still make The Simpsons?
They do.
Okay.
It's in season 149.
Million and 32.
Yeah, something like that.
Right, okay. Ron Hill Rallying, in association with the Letterkenny Community Childcare Facility Rebuilding Fund, presents a pre-Donegal International Rally event. It's this Sunday, the 11th of June, at St Eunan's GEA pitch in Letterkenny. Among the panel will be Callum Devine, Gary Jennings, David Bogie, Kevin Eves and more. Rally cars will be on display from 5 p.m. with free ice cream and face painting for the kids and Michael. The rally discussion and crack gets underway at 7 p.m. For more details, see the Ron Hill Rallying Facebook page. Admission is at the door on the night. That's going to be well attended there. Something for the young ones in the family and for the older ones as well. Back with more from Connor and Michael after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
With a high digital online skills course, you'll feel a real difference.
I can listen to all the music I like. The bus app that's coming out, it's brilliant.
Anything you want to know, it's at their fingertips.
They're small things, but they mean something.
Learn essential online skills with simple, accessible lessons at highdigital.ie or free phone 1800 20 30 30. Brought to you by Vodafone Ireland Foundation and Alone. Vodafone. Together we can.
The warehouse clearance sale at McGinley's Furniture in Letterkenny ends this evening at 7. Due to a showroom expansion, all warehouse stock is clearing at massively discounted prices, with up to 70% off. Stock is limited, so don't miss this opportunity to grab a bargain only at McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. Sale ends this evening at 7.
A public interest message from Donegal County Council. Attention farmers. As the silage making season gets underway, Donegal County Council would like to remind all farmers in the county to check and repair any cracks in floors and joints of silage pits. Ensure that collection channels and drains are clear to direct all effluent into underground tanks, and closely monitor levels for several weeks, especially if silage is made on wet days. Store bales outside of yards, at least 20 metres from water courses and not more than 2 metres high. Silage effluent can lead to fish kills in rivers and streams. Donegal County Council, protecting your environment.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why.
The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €30 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
It's all about Dad this Father's Day at Dunnes Stores with summer-ready trends for his warm weather wardrobe. Treat your dad to a stylish new shirt for his next night out, or some summer knitwear in his best shade. Pick out a casual look he'll love or something sophisticated from our exclusive designer, Paul Costello. Find all you need this Father's Day at your local Dunnes Stores or shop online at dunnesstores.com. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, would you like to win a 4-course tasting menu and paired wines for 4 people? Well, here's your how you can. We've teamed up with the award-winning Before restaurant in Stranraer on the main street there, and they want to give one lucky winner the chance to win a delicious 4-course tasting menu and paired wines for 4 people. With natural wood-fired cooking, organic biodynamic wines and local craft beer, everything's cooked on charcoal or wood fires like in times before. No gas or electricity is used in their kitchen. The interiors and concept of the restaurant were inspired by by the idea of fusing the old with the new. Elements of the restaurant honour ancient Ireland or times before modern living, like long communal-style dining tables to encourage a sense of community, although they have lots of individual tables too. The tables themselves are native ancient Irish wood types, handmade with live edging, made by the owner, Niall Jackson, and designed with inspiration from the local landscape. Now, for your chance to win, go to our Facebook page, Highland Radio, at Highland Radio Donegal on Instagram, and follow the instructions to enter. Winner will be selected today at 4 o'clock. And it's only either one of those pages, by the way, that will contact you to tell you you are a winner. Who can forget Kevin Sharkey was in it when asked a question by Ted. Sure, how would you know? I'm from Donegal. By the way, Greg, with all this good weather, less telly has been watched, but I'm reminded me of Greg and his mankini. Maybe it's too much sun, but it's something you can't forget. And it's 29 Celsius next week. Kevin from Donegal. Well, Kevin, I might actually just roll the straps of the mankini down. So that's something for you to think of.
Great. Thanks for that image. Thanks a lot for that image.
Well, I don't want two strap lines, so I'll just really pretty much have the budgie smuggler and the straps hanging down.
It's not small, it's far away.
Right, thanks. I can't get that image out of my own head. That's how worrying it is.
Your weekend ruined.
Right, Treme.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I never watch that that's current, and I'm always watching this old stuff, and you know I love The Wire. So Treme is made by David Simon after he made The Wire. I think it's 2010 was season 1, and it's set in New Orleans post Katrina, and it's brilliant for a start. I'm only halfway through season 1 at the moment, and I absolutely love it. And it's got, similar to The Wire, it's got all these personal, really engaging stories of these characters, but it's all kind of woven into a broader tapestry about post-Katrina New Orleans. Treme was, you know, it's down the lower 9th Ward, where a lot of the projects were, and you have this whole thing of there's certain political / business influencers that want to use this to get all the poor people out of that, because it's actually prime tourist real estate. So they want to replace the projects with
it's like don't waste a good crisis sort of a thing.
Exactly. The shock doctrine, Naomi Klein sort of thing. And what it also has as well, it's almost like when he was making this, Simon was kind of afraid that the New Orleans that he knew or loved would be lost. So it's a real homage to, I mean, if you like New Orleans jazz, it is full of it. Also that kind of carnival culture. And it's almost like, do you know in The Godfather was so long, but there was bits of it where it wasn't moving the story along, but it was recreating to give you the feel. And there's a real feeling of this about it that you actually really go, my God, New Orleans was great, and you really appreciate the whole the music, jazz elements, the carnival elements. You'll see there's a lot of familiar faces if you're a Wire fan that crop up. Wendell Pierce, who played Bunk in The Wire, he's a kind of trombonist, jazz trombonist who's basically living from gig to gig. So when was
Katrina, and when did this go into production? I'm not putting you on the spot.
Katrina was about 2005, 2006. Right, so
he was onto it really quite quickly after that then. So.
Yeah, I think this was commissioned in about 2008, and the pilot was made in 2009, but wasn't actually broadcast till 2010.
Yeah.
And then so the first season then went out in 2010. But I mean, it's got everything. If you're familiar with David Simon, it's got everything that you'd expect with the brilliant characters. There's also kind of a overarching kind of social commentary, all mixed up into this just absolutely lovingly recreated aura of New Orleans jazz and New Orleans carnival.
It feels real then, does it? Because that's the thing about the Wire. It didn't feel like a documentary, don't get me wrong, but it didn't feel like a traditional TV programme either.
No,
for me,
and
if you know what I mean. How
again,
it was acted or presented or scripted, it felt very like there's a camera just capturing what these people are saying.
Yes.
Does it continue that kind of a...
It does, because again, what he's done is he has brought in New Orleans writers, New Orleans newspaper people, There's a character in it played by John Goodman who is based on an actual New Orleans vlogger. Basically, he gets onto YouTube and rants about how the Bush administration have just deserted New Orleans, and rants quite profanely. And he's walking down the street and people are starting to go, "Yeah, I saw your show, man." He's like, he thought he was talking to 3 people, you know. Even every episode, there's a few recurring musicians who are actual New Orleans musicians, and I've no doubt that another element of making this was to make sure these people survived and you know, get them back up to where they were.
How long did it run for, Connor?
Ran for 4 seasons.
Right.
4 seasons, 36 episodes. So it's, you know, by today's standards, it's not a marathon.
It sounds like one of those shows that you've gone, oh my, I've stumbled on something here and I've got 4 series to enjoy this unfold.
Yeah, because I vaguely remember probably about 10 years ago a friend of mine recommended it to me because they knew I liked David Simon. Also, the music would be right up my street. And it was always kind of in the back of my head. And it was one of these things I never got around to watching. And actually what happened, I think the last time I was in here, I was saying that I was going to rewatch The Wire, but I was kind of afraid to in case it wasn't as good as I remembered. I watched it and it was even better.
Right.
And then I went, right, I'm watching Treme now. Yeah.
Have you seen Treme?
One of my all-time favourite shows.
Right, okay.
Superb. Superb.
You recommended this.
I think way back years ago. Yeah, it did run 4 seasons. I finished it off. I can say
it's quite heavy going.
It's heavy, but it's worth.
But not in a negative way.
No.
Just to set it up for.
It gets better. I mean, I think season 2 is better than 1. 3's better. I think it ends brilliantly. It's a. I absolutely endorse everything you've said. It's so worth watching.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so it's in for a treat.
And they bring in some of my favourite characters haven't even appeared yet for you.
Right, brilliant.
But they're brilliant. I love Kim Dickens in that. She's the chef.
Yes.
I love her arc. I think it's an amazing arc.
So what is this? Like, I hate to break it down in simple terms. Is it about people's lives in general?
Yeah,
very much so. Very much so.
Is it their?
It's a bunch of people. Yeah, I mean, I'll try and put it differently, but the same way. It's a bunch of people who just share the city, but they don't know each other, which is fascinating. And you're always like, oh, but that guy doesn't know her, and she doesn't. You know, there's a lawyer, and there's some people. There's a married couple and stuff. So you get to jump around, and you see. So the main character in the show is the city. It's like that. There's no common denominator beyond that, and
they just happen to characters populate this.
Yes,
character.
exactly. And you get this flavour of, you know, you get different. I think,
but you get really invested in their own personal stories as well. I mean, the chef, deeply in debt in the restaurant, fantastic chef, and she's trying to keep the restaurant going. You have the trombone player who, obviously, you know, the gigs have dried up and he's literally hand on mouth from gig to gig. You have a bar owner whose brother was arrested just before Katrina and now is completely lost and missing in the system. You have the John Goodman character who's the vlogger. You have another guy, he was in The Wire, he played Lester Freeman in The Wire, and he's a New Orleans Indian chief, and he's determined that they will be back for the carnival that year. So you have all these different stories.
And I think the word that keeps coming into my head is, and it's obviously what it had to be because of the serious subject matter, and it was almost live, although, you know, a few years later, authenticity. Like, there had to be authentic of it.
Yes, in the same way it has that with The Wire. You know, it kind of, it prides itself. And
but you felt also, like you were in Baltimore, didn't you? I mean, you kind of felt like you knew it.
Yeah.
And also, as I say, in this case, so Baltimore, it was that kind of edgy, gritty authenticity, and you have that here as well. But you also have this, as I say, almost like he was afraid it was going to vanish. You have this loving homage to the authenticity of the New Orleans music scene. You know,
and how it's all intertwined, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's kind of there's a feeling of love off this that you didn't necessarily get off The Wire.
I know what you mean.
And you're right. I think one thing about there is so much music, as Conor said, but it's like when artists are playing, they get the scene. It's not like there's dialogue over it. The camera just moves over, and you get to see an entire performance. You spend maybe 5 minutes with an artist
at the gig.
You totally and it does that every episode. And you're like,
so you into it then.
You're
really
completely immersed in this world. You're like, and you, as somebody who's never been to New Orleans, but after 4 years, you're like, Oh, I get it why it's so
You
important.
can nearly taste the gumbo.
It's quite, you get it. I have a friend who...
Let me ask you, because Connor hasn't seen it yet, and then we have to take a very quick break.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in a 5th series now? Catching up on the characters, if that's doable.
What an idea.
In what New Orleans actually become and how they fit into this.
I'm going to tweet David.
That's
Simon
such an
this afternoon.
idea.
That is brilliant.
Wow. That's like when...
Remember they did that 7 Up, 14 Up, 21? Remember those documentaries?
Do you remember when Deadwood? Remember Deadwood came back? Remember they did a movie?
Quick.
They did a movie. That's a really brilliant idea.
It is.
I would, of course, be on board with it. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Listen, I've actually finally said something that's interesting. Right. that was from Connor's vault. It's Treme. I suspect that you might have to dig around on the internet to find this. It's not. Is it currently streaming? I don't.
Yeah, anywhere you've access to a HBO library, you know, it's a HBO box set. It was,
okay. Happy days. Yeah. Right. There you go. Treme. TREME, and often you can open it up and actually just add it to your watch list in case you might forget what we're talking about. Both Connor and Michael. Connor halfway through season 1, Michael having consumed all of it, both rated extremely highly.
10 out of 10.
Do you want to take the next step in your career? At Atlantic Technological University, we can help you. Choose from over 350 online, flexible and postgraduate courses. Build accredited qualifications in science, engineering, business, nursing, education, computing and much more. From short courses to masters, work hard and thrive with a flexible learning experience designed to suit you. Apply now at atu.ie/flexible. ATU. Develop the skills you need to stand out.
Mick Flavin, 50 years in country music show at the Mount Derrigal Hotel Letterkenny on Monday the 12th of June with special guests Philomena Begley, Ray Lynham, Declan Ernie, Shuni Crampsey and Patsy Kavanagh. Tickets now on sale from the Mount Derrigal Hotel on 074 9122 700.
Holiday sunshine. Fly from Derry to Mallorca this July or August with Atlantic Travel in Letterkenny. Save up to 20% with rates not available elsewhere. Also exclusive discounts for parking. Call Atlantic Travel Letterkenny on 91 26193 or visit atlantictravel.ie.
Summer sale now on in Milford Tiles. 20% off wall and floor tiles. 15% off all bathware. 10% off all wood flooring. Fitters and delivery service available. Call Milford Tiles on 083 0910 707.
The Inishowen Vintage Weekend kicks off this Friday night in the marquee Carrickfield Moville with Orla Fury, followed by the David Craig Band. Doors open at 8 p.m. with a late bar. This ad is sponsored by Hannon Green. For all your insurance needs, we have you covered.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like Fairy Platinum Plus dishwasher tablets 48-piece, only €10. Exclusive to Real Rewards members only. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value. T's and C's apply.
Saturday's Lotto jackpot is heading for €11.5 million. That's €11.5 million. It's the biggest Lotto jackpot this year. All €11.5 million of it.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why.
The National Lottery. It could be you. Play responsibly. Play for fun.
Where did we go wrong?
Right, just to let you know that 2 places are available for our trip to see Tom Jones at Belsonic Festival in Belfast. It's next Friday, the 16th of June. It's €249 per person sharing. To book, give us a call here at the station, 07491 25000. Do you want to go and see Tom Jones in Belfast? Well, we can get you there, get your tickets and get you home. $249 per person sharing. Give us a call, 08660 25000. You are tuned to the 9 till noon show. We are very close to the end of it. We are going to say good morning now, hopefully, to Alan O'Reilly of Carlow Weather. Are you there, Alan?
I am indeed, Greg. How are you?
Great to have you on board again. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, so what's the weather for the northwest for the weekend and into next week then? Is it any less predictable than it has been?
Yeah, unfortunately, it has changed or is changing with that remnants of Storm Oscar that hit the Canaries in Spain, bringing low pressure up towards us. So you're enjoying the best of the sunshine. I think really much of this afternoon and this evening, cloud is increasing from the south However, we're going to lose that northeasterly breeze, which will warm up the north coast nicely. So it's going to turn warm and humid. Winds are going to go suddenly. But we're also going to get some more unstable air with showers. Now, the showers are really hard to forecast. It's going to be very hit and miss. I know some areas crying out for rain and others won't want it to spoil the weekend. It'll probably work out. The ones that want it don't get it, and the ones that don't want it get it, because it is hard to forecast the showers. But temperatures increasing and becoming very humid, especially at night time as well. Temperatures not dropping below maybe 13 or 14 degrees at night. There will be sunny spells, especially on Sunday, but also those local and possibly even thundery showers. So it's not kind of the kind of weather you like, because it's going to go from, very warm and sticky to a shower and back to warm and sticky again. But watch out for the showers. Next week, it's going to be warm and getting warmer. Temperatures getting up to 25, 26 degrees by the middle of the week. But still a risk of showers. So unsettled, but warm and humid is the general consensus.
Pleasant, but not unbroken sunshine.
No, unfortunately, the blue skies are going to leave us, and it's going to become it's funny, we're going to lose the blue skies, but it's going to get warmer. So we're going to have cloud, but much more warm air. And that nice sea breeze that many of us that don't like the heat loved the last 2 weeks is going to leave us as well.
All right, okay. Cheers to that, Alan. Thank you very much indeed. Have a lovely day. That's Alan O'Reilly there. Carlo Weather, you can follow him on social media and get all the maps and charts and predictions and what have you. And the good thing I like about it, it's not Dublin focused like some other weather forecasts can be. Anything nice planned for the weekend, Connor? I don't think we've anything time to dig into anything unless you want to go really quickly on Sweeney Todd. Is that coming up this weekend?
No, I've seen it.
Right, okay, we can come back to that. So, was it good?
Yeah, thumbs up. I enjoyed it.
Any Sunday 3:00 auditions for the youth musical,
and celebration of Father Ted tonight at 8. The musical at 3, and no, I think that's about my weekend.
That's all right. What about you, Michael?
Monster hurling final.
Yeah,
watch the Monster hurling.
Okay, cool.
I had no plans whatsoever, but then I met Fanula on the way in here, and she informed me that I'm going to see Transformers in the cinema. So that's my
in 3D.
I don't know what Fanula wants.
What would your preference be?
Yeah, okay, 3D.
3D. It's supposed to be good in 3D because they slide out the screen and stuff.
A spoiler.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's in the trailer. All right, thanks so much, Conor Malone. We really appreciate you coming up to us. He's manager of the Bala Theatre. Michael Leddy, writer and blogger. Thanks to all of you for being involved in the conversation. Just to let you know that John Breslin and team are broadcasting live today from Foy and Company, Port Road, Letterkenny, taking place today and tomorrow. Foy and Company are having their Creating Colourful Homes event, the largest paint suppliers in the Northwest with extensive knowledge of what paint suits. Book a free paint consultation with the team today. There are some great prizes up for grabs in store and on air, so be sure to tune in. Get down and say hello to them if you're about as well. All right, have a great weekend.
She cuts in for the wing. Oh, that's superb. She's through.